From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 901 Forced Confession. The woman was about to pierce Su Weifeng's heart with a knife, but suddenly her wrist and neck were grabbed at the same time, and her body slowly rose up, with both feet off the ground. Su Weifeng held the woman's neck with one hand, and lifted her up. Gradually, she felt dizzy, and the surrounding scenery gradually blurred. The woman herself was suffocating. At this time, the knife in her hand had already fallen to the ground. The woman's body struggled violently, trying to make a final effort. However, the struggle made her suffocate faster. Her face turned as hen, and finally her head tilted and lost consciousness. The woman was not dead. Su Weifeng still spared his hands, but just let her faint. After a while, the woman slowly woke up. At this time, she was lying on the bed, and she still restored her original appearance. There was a human skin mask on the ground. Su Weifeng also knew a little about this kind of disguise. With the current technology, it is very easy to imitate a person. The woman who took off the mask was in her 20s, and was also a beauty. She was a little bit similar to Qiao Yushan too, but the feeling was completely different. Qiao Yushan was sunny and cute, while this woman was mature and seductive. They were completely different styles. Su Weifeng had also tried the woman's body before. She had not been disguised, and she was real. She looked very similar to Qiao Yushan too. No wonder he was not sure that she was not Qiao Yushan at first. As soon as the woman opened her eyes, she immediately turned over and launched a fierce attack on Su Weifeng, but this was all her imagination. In fact, she had no strength at all lying on the bed, and her whole body was limp, as if her body was not her own. "What did you do to me?" The woman became nervous. She knew that her life and death were now in the hands of this man, and there was no room for resistance. The woman was still very puzzled. How did he defeat her just now? She was obviously in the upper hand, so why was she suddenly controlled by him? But now it was obviously useless to worry about these things. "You can use drugs, but I can't." "But don't worry, you are not poisoned. It won't kill you. It will only make you weak and powerless, without the ability to resist." Ha 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 ha. Su Weifeng laughed triumphantly, feeling the pleasure of giving him a taste of his own medicine. But after saying this, he felt like a villain, a pervert. "Husband, just do whatever you want. Do you still need to drug me?" The woman looked at Su Weifeng with seductive eyes, her face showing a faint blush, and Su Weifeng couldn't stand it. Su Weifeng's smile slowly disappeared, and a frost began to appear on his face. "Can you tell me now? What's your name? Who are you?" Su Weifeng said coldly. "Little handsome boy, why are you in such a hurry? Now that people can't move, don't you want to do something? It's not too late to talk about it later, if there is any problem." The woman twisted her body hard, and said in a teasing tone. The woman was expecting Su Weifeng to take the bait. Men are most relaxed at that time. Then her chance would come. As long as she could survive, she didn't mind playing with this man. "I'm not interested in you," Su Weifeng said disdainfully. "Are you still a man? You don't even eat it when it's right in front of your mouth. Do you think I'm beautiful?" The woman said softly, her voice full of charm. Su Weifeng still smiled and watched her performance, as if he was watching a play. "If you let me, I'll tell you everything I know." Seeing that Su Weifeng was still unmoved, the woman was a little anxious, so she put on the appearance of a hungry woman and said, "Okay, since you have this hobby, I'll satisfy you." Su Weifeng said as he walked over and lifted the woman's clothes up to her belly. The woman was overjoyed. She finally got it. "Today, I'll suffer a little loss and see how I kill you," she thought to herself. Just after a while of being proud, the woman screamed, "What do you want to do? Let me go." "Don't do it," the woman screamed loudly. Fortunately, Su Weifeng's room was well soundproofed, otherwise people outside would think that something vicious had happened. Su Weifeng sneered and took out more than 10 silver needles and pierced the woman's stomach, body, and limbs with them. The woman felt as if thousands of ants had crawled into her body, biting her body, and it was painful and itchy from the inside out. The pain was okay, as she could endure the pain with her willpower. However, this itch could not be endured by willpower. She felt like she was going to die, and she was in pain and happy. Ha ha ha, no, ha, just kill me. The woman struggled desperately on the bed, but her body was too weak to obey her commands, and tears came out of her face with laughter. Su Weifeng smiled and watched her. They took turns to torture people to force a confession. Su Weifeng also knew how to do it, but he didn't like it either. The current method was just child's play, and it was very gentle. There were also mercenaries on the battlefield, who used daggers to cut the soles of their feet to force a confession. They only cut a thin layer each time, then applied some hemostatic medicine, and then continued, ensuring that the smallest injury would bring the greatest torture. There were even many more sinister methods than this. However, for a woman, especially a beautiful woman, Su Weifeng still chose this method. Itching is also a good torture, and most people can't stand it. Kill me. The woman laughed so hard that she couldn't breathe, but this strange itch was even more intense. She couldn't die now. Tell me, I will let you go, and you won't be so itchy. You are not afraid of death, so what can't you say? Su Weifeng coaxed her. Dream on, haha, I will never tell you even if I die, ha. The woman laughed, and said with difficulty, don't worry, you can't die. Su Weifeng also smiled. You, ha, devil. The woman said painfully. The woman only felt that her body was getting more and more itchy. This feeling did not disappear with the passage of time, but became more intense. She bit her teeth, and gradually her teeth were bleeding, but she could not feel any pain at all. Her consciousness gradually began to blur, but there was only one feeling that was particularly clear, that is, itching, which was magnified countless times. Finally, the woman fainted as she wished. This was because the itching feeling had exceeded the tolerance of her consciousness. Su Weifeng frowned and pierced her philtrum with a silver needle. The woman woke up instantly, but the moment she woke up, the unbearable itching feeling filled her entire consciousness again. The woman could only scream subconsciously, as if it could dispel the itching feeling on her body. Tell me, who are you? Su Weifeng's words seemed to come from the horizon, vague and unclear. Tell me and I will let you go. Su Weifeng continued to speak, and it became clearer and clearer in the woman's ears. Chapter 902 Breaking the Defense Line. Relax, relax, relax your head. Relax your neck and shoulders. You are safe now. Su Weifeng's voice began to become softer and more ethereal, and the devilish voice was deeply transmitted into the woman's mind. I will let you go. If you say it, I will let you go. If you say it. There was a voice echoing in her mind, which seemed to be the main theme of her world. Tell him, you will not be so painful. Tell him, you will be relieved. If you say it, as if another self is constantly disintegrating her will. Finally, under the dual effects of Su Weifeng's silver needles and hypnosis, the woman's consciousness collapsed, and all resistance collapsed. I said. As the woman screamed, her consciousness also woke up from the trance. Yes, this is the right choice. Telling you will not have any effect on you. Su Weifeng raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and continued to hint to the woman, but his gentle smile was like a devil's smile in the eyes of the woman. Su Weifeng pulled out all the silver needles on the woman's limbs. As the silver needles were pulled out one by one, the woman felt the numbness and itchiness on her body gradually eased, and she subconsciously moaned in comfort. After the silver needles on her limbs were pulled out, Su Weifeng stopped moving his hands. Although the woman was still itchy, she could bear it compared to the hellish pain just now. She did not ask Su Weifeng to continue pulling out the needles. She was not an idiot. She knew that this man would not let her go easily. Once she did not satisfy him, this pain would come back, and it might be more intense than before. Thinking of this, the woman shuddered. Ask me, I can tell you everything I know. After the woman said this, she relaxed and her defenses completely disappeared. Su Weifeng knew that when dealing with prisoners, as long as he found a breakthrough and opened her defenses, she would tell everything once her heart collapsed. At this time, she was unwilling to hide anything, as if she felt very happy to say it out. What's your name? Su Weifeng looked at the woman calmly and said in a gentle voice. I'm number 18. The woman said softly. As she said this, she felt more relaxed, as if she had spit out the huge rock that was pressing on her chest. Su Weifeng felt a little nervous. He knew that the woman was not lying. He had seen people who used numbers as names before. They were either death row prisoners or some special organizations. In order to increase their sense of belonging and erase their personal consciousness, these people had no names. Everyone was given a number or code name. This was their name. This situation was not new in the dark side of the world. Why are you called number 18? Where are you from? Su Weifeng continued to ask. My memory started from a small island. There were many children on the island. Every day, a plane would fly over the island and drop food and water, but the amount was very small. If you didn't want to die of thirst or hunger, you could only. The woman looked a little confused, as if she had returned to her childhood, that she couldn't bear to look back on. Similar to what Su Weifeng had expected, the woman came from a killer organization called Red Kill. This organization would capture young children from all over the world and throw them to an island to let them experience the natural law of the jungle. Those who survived would become the organization's reserve personnel and receive comprehensive killer training. At this time, they all had no names, only code names, which represented their status in the organization. With constant fighting and challenges, this woman finally got the code name 18, which represented the 18th ranked killer in the organization. Su Weifeng had never heard of the killer organization Red Kill. He was more exposed to mercenaries and rarely dealt with killers. In Su Weifeng's impression, these people were insidious and cold, and far less easy to get along with than the generous mercenaries. However, through the way this woman trained newcomers, Su Weifeng also knew that this organization should be very large. Then why did you capture Xiao 2? Is it for that Xiao? Su Weifeng continued to ask. It's not us Red Kill who want to capture your girlfriend, 18 said. In addition to the organization's tasks, we occasionally take on some private jobs. These private jobs are sometimes not all about killing people. Capturing your girlfriend is one of the tasks I took. Su Weifeng frowned. If it was no 18's organization that captured Chu Xiao 2, it would be easier to deal with. At least we know who the enemy is. But if it was a commissioned task, it would be a bit troublesome. This kind of contact with the killer is anonymous. Generally speaking, the killer and the employer will not meet, and they don't know each other's identities. Who gave you the task? Do you know the identity of the employer? Su Weifeng frowned and asked anxiously. I don't know who the employer is. A broker contacted me. His name is Donald. Number 18 said affirmatively. Su Weifeng's nervous mood relaxed a little. Although she didn't know who the employer was, it was not bad news for Su Weifeng. He knew some of the killer's situations. Many of them took orders online. They didn't know each other's identities. As long as the task was completed, the money would be transferred to their own accounts. Another way is not through the internet, but through middlemen, that is, brokers. These brokers not only deal in mercenary business, but also in killer business. This woman received the task from the broker. In this way, if you find the broker, you may know the other party's identity. Where can this broker be found? Su Weifeng asked. He should be found in the Old Bill Bar in the South District of Galan. He often moves around there. Number 18 told Su Weifeng the specific address in detail. After asking for a while, it turned out that Chu Xiao was captured last night. At that time, she and the broker came to the vicinity of the bar. Number 18 used an excuse to lead Chu Xiao out of the bar, then knocked her out, changed into Chu Xiao's clothes, and then handed Chu Xiao to the broker, who handed her to the employer, and number 18 continued to return to the bar to work as Chu Xiao. Number 18 also has a task to approach the owner of the bar and use Chu Xiao's identity to find more purple jade or related information. In order to imitate more realistically, number 18 wanted to bring Chu Xiao's purple jade with him, but was rejected by the broker, who said that the employer clearly required that the first task was this bracelet, and there must be no failure. After Su Weifeng learned about these situations, he was ready to go to the Old Bill Bar immediately. Chu Xiao had been captured for a day, and he was very worried about Chu Xiao's safety. However, how to deal with this woman? It was obviously not okay to bring her around, but a woman who looked a bit like Chu Xiao. Su Weifeng really couldn't bear to kill him, and finally thought of someone. Murphy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 903 Mysterious Murphy. After such a long time of contact, Su Weifeng knew that this girl was very reliable, indifferent, and not very curious. So it would be a good choice to let her take care of number 18. As for those people of Xiangyi, Su Weifeng thought about it and decided to forget it. He didn't want to have too many interactions with these people. After thinking it over, Su Weifeng called Demo Fei directly. "Boss, how is it?" As soon as the phone was dialed, Mo Fei's voice came from the other side, obviously not asleep yet. When Mo Fei saw the phone, she thought of Chu Xiaotu's matter. She had a good relationship with Chu Xiaotu, and she also liked this lively and lovely girl. After talking with Su Weifeng today, she was also worried about Chu Xiaotu's matter. Chu Xiaotu was kidnapped. Su Weifeng sighed and said, "What? Who kidnapped Chu Xiaotu?" Mo Fei's tone was no longer calm, and he said angrily, "Yesterday's visit to your house and today's visit to Chu Xiaotu are both fake. It was she who kidnapped Chu Xiaotu." Su Weifeng told Demo Fei in detail what happened, including that the other party was likely to come for Ziyu. He did not hide these things, but he did not tell Mo Fei that number 18 was a killer. He was afraid of scaring Mo Fei. "Mo Fei, can you help me keep an eye on this woman? I want to save Xiaotu. I'm worried about leaving this woman here." Su Weifeng said seriously. "No problem, I will go in a while, leave it to me," Mo Fei said happily. Mo Fei heard Chu Xiaotu talk about where they lived. More than 20 minutes later, Mo Fei, who casually put on a sports suit, had come to Su Weifeng's room. The hotel receptionist was not surprised that Mo Fei came to Su Weifeng's room and did not ask. They all knew that these rich people like excitement, and it was not surprising to change a beautiful woman in a day. They also enthusiastically led Mo Fei to Su Weifeng's door and then left with a smile. Mo Fei's head was full of black lines. She worked in a bar, how could she not understand these things? But now she couldn't care less. Saving Xiaotu was the most important thing. "Boss, where is that woman?" Mo Fei said coldly as soon as she entered the room. Although her face was still cold, Su Weifeng also felt the difference between her and usual. If she was usually indifferent to everything, now her face was frosty with anger. "She is in my room. I have tied her up. You can sleep in Xiaotu's room tonight," Su Weifeng said, and pointed Mo Fei to Xiaotu's room. "This woman should be tied up by me, and the rope should not be untied. You can go and see her when you have nothing to do. Feed her something, so that she won't starve to death. It may take me a few days to go this time. Don't open the door before I come back." Su Weifeng gave a few more instructions and went out. After Su Weifeng left, Mo Fei came to Su Weifeng's room and looked at number 18 tied to the bed. This woman looked a bit similar to Chu Xiaotu. Mo Fei was also a little surprised, but she regained her calm in an instant. "Sister Fifi is here, help me untie the rope, it's strangling me to death." 18th pretended to be weak and pleaded. "Don't think too much, I won't untie your rope. You will not have a good result if you tie up Xiaotu," Mo Fei said coldly. She knew Su Weifeng a little bit and knew that this man was not a kind person. He would not let it go after taking his girlfriend away. "Haha, are you talking about Su Weifeng? I don't know who gave him the courage to cause trouble for Donald, and he was even going to save the girl. Donald had been in that bar for so many years and had many enemies, but why is he still alive and well? He is not a person who can be dealt with by one person. And I don't have to catch him this time, he just came to my door. You can't blame me for this. He is looking for death. He can't even protect himself. Who can make me have a bad ending? Be smart and let me go now, otherwise when my people get here, I will kill you too." "No, you look good too. It would be a pity to kill you, so I will sell you to a place with special services. Someone as cold as you might be very popular. I believe many people want to try your taste. Ha 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 ha. For the sake of our acquaintance, if you let me go now, I will pretend nothing happened, and this matter has nothing to do with you." Seeing that being soft was not enough, number 18 began to threaten Murphy viciously. She believed that, although the girl looked calm, she was a girl who had not seen much of the world. What she said was not all to scare her. She could really do it. She believed that she had begun to be afraid in her heart. Number 18 was about to continue to scare the girl and let her go. Before she finished speaking, Murphy walked out. Number 18 was so angry that she cursed again. But soon Murphy came back and found an unwashed rag from somewhere. She stuffed it into No 18's mouth while she was stunned. Number 18 was so disgusted that she almost vomited. This time, she really couldn't make any sound. Looking at No 18's resentful eyes, Murphy looked at her coldly and returned to Qiao 2's bedroom. It was already midnight. Murphy had worked hard all day and was really tired. She felt sleepy and soon couldn't open her eyes. The effect of the drug on 18th's body slowly faded away, and her numb body gradually regained consciousness. She pricked up her ears and listened confidently to the sounds outside. After half an hour, there was still no movement outside, and a smile gradually appeared on the corners of her mouth. Su Weifeng, do you think you can tie me up with a broken rope? And that Murphy, I will kill you in a while, 18th thought, and her body began to twist slowly. 10 minutes later, she was already standing in the middle of the bedroom, slowly moving her hands and feet, with a weird smile on her face. This is not Su Weifeng's carelessness. Su Weifeng's method of tying people is very professional. He believes that ordinary people can't untie it. This 18th is indeed not untied rope, but freed from the rope. He didn't expect that this 18th would actually shrink bones, something that only yoga masters can do. The freed 18th did not leave, but walked towards Qiao 2's room. She was a killer. How could she allow people, or, let alone girls, even babies to see her true face? Number 18 gently opened the door to Qiao 2's room. In the moonlight, he saw a short-haired girl lying on the bed, breathing evenly. Number 18 held his dagger with a cruel smile on his face. Just a few steps into the room, number 18 felt a sudden pain in his foot. A black spider bit his foot fiercely. Number 18 wanted to step on this big spider that came out of nowhere, but suddenly he felt his foot go numb and gradually lost consciousness. Chapter 904, You're responsible for your own mistakes. 18 was very scared. She knew that this meant that she was poisoned. This spider was poisonous. 18 squatted down and knocked the spider aside with a dagger, then nailed the spider to the floor with one knife. Black liquid flowed out of the spider's body. It struggled for a few times and then stopped moving. 18 was annoyed. She didn't expect to be bitten by a poisonous spider for no reason, but she didn't care. She was also bitten by this kind of poisonous creature when she was training in the jungle. As long as it was not too poisonous, such as the cobra, she could cut the wound with a knife, let the blood out, squeeze out the poisonous blood, and apply some medicine. Thinking of this, 18 used the moonlight to cut a wound on her foot and squeezed it hard. She didn't care about the girl on the bed. It didn't matter, even if she woke up. It was just a matter of one knife. The most important thing at the moment was to get the poisonous blood out first. It's useless. The 5 poisonous insects are extracted from 5 kinds of poisons. They are placed in a jar without food, and they are allowed to fight each other. The final winner will devour the other losers, and its body will also contain toxins of different species. No matter what kind of poison the winner is, it is no longer the original species. Your detoxification method is okay for ordinary spiders, but if you are bitten by it, haha, there is no solution. Murphy's cold voice came, and the lights in the room lit up at the same time. Number 18 looked at Murphy, who had sat up in surprise. She didn't expect that she had woken up a long time ago, and was even more shocked by what she said. Is what she said true? No, how could it be possible? She had also heard of that kind of insect poisoning technique. Although it was very mysterious, it was actually just cultivating poisonous insects. Could it be that Murphy was from that place? Thinking of this, number 18 was a little nervous. Looking at her feet with the light, she saw that the wound had turned black, and the blood she squeezed out was black. The blood vessels near the wound had been infected by black, and the black liquid was spreading upward along the blood vessels in the calf. No, who are you? 18th cried in horror. She was not so scared when Su Weifeng was forcing her to confess. Although she was suffering from itching, she knew it was just itchy. Although it was unbearable, it would not kill her. But now it is different. This poison spreads too fast. It will kill her in a minute. Even if she goes to the hospital, it will be too late. You dare to harm Xiao too. I told you that you will not have a good result. But I didn't want to kill you so soon. You will suffer for your own sins. What a pity. Mo Fei sighed, but she was not sorry for this woman, but a spider. She also spent a lot of effort to cultivate it. She put it here for warning. She didn't expect this woman to really come. 18th cried in her heart. Originally, her internal force could be used to force out the poison. Even if the poison could not be completely forced out, it could effectively control the speed of the poison attacking the heart. However, she was drugged by Su Weifeng. Now her body has only recovered some mobility, and her internal force is still unusable. Now there is no way to detoxify. 18 staggered, wanting to kill this Murphy. Now she didn't care about so much. She let herself suffer so much, so she killed him first. However, before she took a few steps, she fell to the ground with a bang. Her body kept rolling on the ground, and her whole consciousness was in pain. A minute later, the woman was completely motionless. Murphy was not surprised by this result. No one knew the toxicity of this spider better than her. She was just embarrassed about how to explain it to Su Weifeng. However, Su Weifeng should have asked about this woman. I think she should be useless. Thinking of this, Murphy didn't care about the woman lying on the ground and lay down to continue sleeping. Su Weifeng left the hotel and drove straight to Old Bill's bar. This time he didn't care about not having a driver's license. He drove 100 miles on the street at midnight and soon arrived at Old Bill's bar. However, it was already midnight, and it was not far from dawn. The bar had already closed. This was also within Su Weifeng's expectations. When he and the woman went home, most of the bars were closed. He took out his phone and called Xiang Yi directly, wanting to see if this local tyrant had any way to find Donald. Mr. Su, what's the matter? When Xiang Yi saw that it was Su Weifeng's call, he immediately became alert and said respectfully, "Help me find someone. Donald from Old Bill's bar in the South District. Can you find him?" Su Weifeng didn't have time to elaborate, so he said directly, "I know this person, but the South District is not my territory, and it will take some time to find him. Has this person offended Mr. Su?" Xiang Yi had indeed heard of this person, and he was also a figure, but that place was no longer his territory, and it was a hassle to find this person. He took Xiao Tu away. Su Weifeng just said one sentence. Xiang Yi's eyes widened. Xiao Tu, he knew, wasn't this Mr. Su's girlfriend? How dare you catch Mr. Su's girlfriend? Who is Mr. Su? He is a martial arts master. Can you touch the woman of such a man? Xiang Yi knew that Mr. Su could ask him for help, which was definitely an opportunity for him. If he wanted to contact Ajax through Mr. Su and get on good terms with him, then now he was just trying to get on good terms with Mr. Su. Such a strong man is not something that everyone can get in touch with. Everyone is a guest of honor in a big family. Xiang Yi had already thought about this matter. No matter who he offended, he had to find this Donald. As long as he could get on some terms with Mr. Su, everything would be worth it. Don't worry, Mr. Su, I'll have someone check it out right away. No, I'll go myself. Xiang Yi said seriously. After hanging up the phone, Su Weifeng did not leave, but waited in the BMW. Xiang Yi just said that he would give him news within an hour. Su Weifeng was very satisfied with Xiang Yi's attitude. He knew that this matter was not too simple for Xiang Yi. Regardless of whether he could get news about Donald in a while, Su Weifeng had accepted his favor. Half an hour later, Su Weifeng's phone rang again, and Xiang Yi's excited voice came over. "Mr. Su, Donald has been found. He is now at his mistress's house. The address is here," Xiang Yi said excitedly. He did not expect to find him so easily. Fortunately, his men were playing in the bar today. In the bathroom, he overheard a man say that he was going to his mistress's house that night. He knew that man was Donald. If it were not for that man, it would not be so easy to find out about Donald. Xiang Yi had already made up his mind that this guy was his lucky star. He would mention his location tomorrow. Chapter 905. Looking for Donald. After thanking Mr. Ziyang and declining his offer to help catch someone, Su Weifeng drove straight to Donald's mistress's house. On a farm in the suburbs, on the bed in the bedroom, a tall, thin middle-aged man was hugging a plump woman in her 30s. "Dear, you did a good job today, so I'll give you a reward," the woman said, taking out a small colorful pill. "Come again," the man said with a sad face. "You haven't come to my place for so long. You have to compensate me well," the woman said with a smile. Suddenly, there was a sound of a cow outside. "Is this damn cow crazy? Why is it screaming in the middle of the night?" The woman was disturbed and said unhappily. Could it be that someone stole the cow? Donald felt that there was something wrong with the sound of the cow and couldn't help frowning. A few days ago, Aunt Susan's cow next door was lost. Maybe it was really a cow thief. "Damn, dare to steal my cow," the woman said, got up, put on a piece of clothes, and went to the field. The man frowned, picked up the pistol from the bed, and followed him out. As soon as the two of them left the house, they saw a BMW parked outside the farm. There were no lights on the car, and it was not started. The cows just rushed to the car and screamed. It shouldn't be a cattle thief. A cattle thief should use a pickup truck. This BMW can't fit a cow, the woman said with some doubt. That's not necessarily true. Have you seen this car nearby? The man frowned and asked. I don't think I've seen it. There are usually pickup trucks around here. Few people drive this kind of car, the woman recalled, and shook her head. I'll go and see, the man said, and walked out of the farm, still holding the pistol tightly in his hand. The bullets were already loaded. He believed that, even if there was any situation, even if it was his enemy, he would have no problem with the gun in his hand. The man walked to the side of the car and shone the flashlight into the car window. Suddenly, a face was reflected in the car window, which scared him. The flashlight almost fell to the ground, but he reacted immediately and pointed the pistol at the person in the car. Get down, what are you doing? The man shouted loudly while pointing a gun at the people in the car. The car door slowly opened, and a yellow scandation appeared in front of the man. Are you Donald? Su Weifeng looked at the man coldly and said, Who are you? The man did not answer Su Weifeng's question at all, but said viciously, Don't you know who I am? Su Weifeng looked at Donald coldly and said in a cold tone. Suddenly Donald's heart was shocked. He recognized Su Weifeng. It was the information of number 18 Su Weifeng that he gave, including photos, recent situation, etc. He already knew that Su Weifeng had come forward to kill the enemy for Ziyang Yi. Although it was not Su Weifeng who killed him, the outside world had already spread the news that Ziyang Yi's enemy had returned and was already a yellow level master. But in the end, he was killed by a young man hired by Ziyang Yi, and this young man was none other than Su Weifeng. As a broker, Donald knew more about the news of the warriors. He was also very afraid of Su Weifeng's strength, so he asked number 18 to pretend to be Chu Zio2 and wait for an opportunity instead of coming to win directly. Seeing Su Weifeng here means that the woman failed and gave herself up. Ziyang Yi was so angry. What red kill? We can't cooperate anymore. It doesn't matter if you die, if the matter is exposed. How can you give me, the middleman, up? This is a taboo. I don't know you, you come to me. Ziyang Yi looked at Su Weifeng with a confused face. Before he finished speaking, he moved his hand violently and pulled the trigger. Su Weifeng was very familiar with guns. He judged that he had pulled the trigger by the trembling of Ziyang Yi's hand missiles. Su Weifeng's body took a step forward to the left, and Ziyang Yi's bullet hit the open space. Shit, Donald shouted subconsciously after missing the shot. Donald only felt a pain in his neck and lost consciousness. At that moment, he knew it was over. The woman inside screamed in fear when she saw the man being knocked down. She saw the man running towards her quickly. It was too late to run. Before she could see the man's face clearly, she fainted with a headache. Su Weifeng snorted coldly and ignored the woman. He dragged the man into the car and drove away. What's wrong? It seems to be the sound over there. Let's go out and take a look, the woman in the next house said. She was also awakened by the gunshot. What are you looking at? That woman hooked up with a man. That man is not a decent person. There is no enemy coming to the door or fighting. Don't go looking for trouble, the man said angrily. It seems so. This kind of thing has happened before. There were gunshots at night, but nothing happened during the day. It was all normal. The woman thought about it and said, don't worry about it. Go to sleep. You will know tomorrow. The man said. The two lay down again and gradually fell asleep. Similar scenes were happening in other farms around. Everyone kept a distance from the woman, knowing that she had found a boyfriend that no one could afford to offend. Su Weifeng drove his car all the way to a stream before stopping. He pulled Donald out of the car and threw him on the ground. After kicking him a few more times, Donald finally woke up. His first reaction after waking up was to find a gun, but how could Su Weifeng give him the opportunity to find a gun? Su Weifeng took out the pistol and gently pointed it at Donald's head. What do you want to do? Donald was a little nervous at this time. The surrounding environment was most suitable for destroying the body. He knew this kind of thing very well. Su Weifeng brought him here, and he was afraid that he would be in danger. Tell me, where did you catch the rabbit? Su Weifeng said viciously. He was really angry. What rabbit? My farm doesn't sell rabbits. Donald pretended to be puzzled, hoping to get away with it. Bang! Su Weifeng didn't say anything and shot Donald in the knee. After a scream, Donald fell to the ground, holding his knee and rolling around in pain. He knew that his leg was useless. The knee was different from other parts of the body. The meniscus and other cartilage could not regenerate. With a broken knee, he would be a cripple in the next life. However, he did not dare to show any resentment on his face. He knew that he was a lamb to be slaughtered. No matter how angry he was, he could not show it. If he showed hatred, he would be silenced soon. No one would allow his enemy to live. I'm Donald. Ask whatever you want. Donald took a while to calm down and could bear the pain. Chapter 906 I Want Your Life. Donald knew that he was in trouble today. In the past, he would always be accompanied by bodyguards when he came to his mistress. Even if there were enemies, he didn't care and could get away with it. Moreover, he was smooth in doing things and always got himself clean, just like an intermediary, not offending both sides. Moreover, the killer he contacted had not yet betrayed him, so there were few enemies who wanted to kill him, but number 18 was an exception. He came here today on a whim. As for Su Weifeng, he didn't worry about it in advance. The killer was also a beauty. A hero couldn't resist the beauty. It was too easy for a beautiful woman with a purpose to seduce a man, unless the man didn't like women. Even if the woman couldn't find anything, he believed that he could get away with it. Unexpectedly, an accident happened, and he was implicated in the accident. Donald knew that what he could do now was to tell everything he knew. Since the other party had come to the door, there was really no need for him to sacrifice himself for the interests of the client. He didn't have such a noble professional spirit. Now he just hoped that the man would leave quickly after getting what he wanted. Holding on to his own life was the most important thing. He now regretted why he didn't say it earlier. He was shot. He would probably call him lame Donald in the future. Where is Chu Xiao to now? Su Weifeng said coldly. She has been taken away by those people. Without waiting for Su Weifeng to ask, Donald knew what he was going to ask and continued. I don't know these people either. I have never dealt with them before. They suddenly came to me. After I called the girl to them, they left. Su Weifeng frowned. What Donald said was useless information. If this man didn't know where those people were going, things would be difficult. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but get anxious. Seeing Su Weifeng frowning, Donald knew that he had to tell him some useful information quickly, otherwise this man might collapse directly when he was excited, and then he would lose money. But I know where they are going, Donald said loudly, finally attracting Su Weifeng's attention, and Donald was relieved. Where are they going? Su Weifeng asked hurriedly. At that time, I was also curious about what these people wanted to do. They wanted both the jade bracelet and a person, so I secretly placed a bug on the girl and heard some of their conversations. The two people who came to see me were two black-robed men. Their faces were covered with black gauze, so I couldn't see what they looked like. I just heard that one of them had a hoarse voice and couldn't tell his age, and the other one looked a little old, so he should be very old. Su Weifeng was very anxious. Donald just couldn't get to the point, but in order not to disrupt his thoughts, Su Weifeng didn't say anything to stop him and endured listening. I heard them say that they wanted to take the girl back to some VIP island. I don't know the specific place. I guess they shouldn't take a boat or something. That kind of regular transportation is inconvenient to carry people and it's easy to be checked. They should have hired a private boat. Do you know whose boat they hired? Su Weifeng asked again. I don't know whose boat it is, but we only have one dock and gallon to go out to sea. Donald said. Aren't there regular passenger ships there? I didn't see any private boats. Su Weifeng said puzzledly. You are talking about the surface. You will definitely not see any private boats when you go there during the day, but there will be people soliciting customers privately. After paying a deposit, there will be private boats going out to sea at night. Donald explained. So that's how it is. If it weren't for people like Donald, he really wouldn't be able to find this private boat. You can ask around there. Maybe you can find the boat hired by those people. Donald continued. Then what else did you hear from the monitor? Why did they catch that girl? Su Weifeng continued to ask. It seems that the purple jade can help them practice some kind of kung fu, and this girl is also related to this kind of kung fu. There was no useful content at first, and only then did they say some news. At that time, they might have gone out to sea. I could hear the sound of wind and waves, and the signal was intermittent, and then there was no signal at all. Donald said some more news, but apart from letting Su Weifeng know that it was related to the purple jade, there was no more valuable news. These people use purple jade to practice kung fu. When he first cut out the purple jade, he did guide the purple spiritual energy inside into his body, but then the spiritual energy inside was gone, and even if he didn't absorb the spiritual energy, it would automatically dissipate. How could these people practice with this purple jade without spiritual energy? Su Weifeng couldn't figure it out. Could it be that Xiao Tu also wore the bracelet every day, so he was contaminated with a little spiritual energy? Su Weifeng racked his brains to think of various possibilities. Mr. Su, now I have told you everything I know. Can you let me go? Compensation is definitely necessary. You can reduce the amount. I guarantee you will be satisfied. Donald lowered his posture and smiled. He had confessed everything he knew today. Many times, Su Weifeng didn't need to ask. He could draw inferences from one thing and say everything he thought might be useful. He thought that he should be able to hold on to his life if he cooperated so well. However, he obviously underestimated how much Su Weifeng valued Chu Xiao Tu. He was the one who captured Chu Xiao Tu, and Chu Xiao Tu was still in danger of death. How could Su Weifeng let him go so easily? If it was something else, Su Weifeng would just extort some money from him, but no matter how much money he paid, he couldn't buy back his life if he dared to hurt his woman. I want your life. In Donald's unbelievable eyes, Su Weifeng pulled the trigger with a smile on his face. Donald had a small hole in the middle of his eyebrows and was kicked into the river by Su Weifeng. He didn't know where he went along the river. Maybe he was found in the sea again. Those who hurt Xiao Tu don't even think about running away. This is the first one, Su Weifeng shouted in his heart. He didn't know that this was the second one. The female killer at home had been dealt with by Murphy a long time ago. After leaving here, Su Weifeng quickly came to the dock that Donald mentioned. It was still dark at this time, and there was no ferry yet. The dock was deserted at this time. Su Weifeng frowned. Did he have to wait for several hours until dawn before someone came? Thinking of this, he felt like a stone was pressing on his heart. Suddenly, a black man with curly hair and strong perfume came over from the side of the dock. Su Weifeng sneezed. Hey, friend, are you going out to sea? The big ship hasn't arrived yet. I have my own speedboat. Do you want to take it? It's faster than the big ship. You can go wherever you want now. The black man said enthusiastically with a smile on his face. Chapter 907. Money makes the world go round. Su Weifeng was delighted. This was a surprise. He hadn't even looked for them yet, and they came to him. Do you know VIP Island? Su Weifeng asked hurriedly. Who are you? Are you with those people? The black man's face suddenly turned cold, and he looked at Su Weifeng angrily. Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, but soon realized that he must have misunderstood and thought that he was with those people. However, the man was obviously full of hostility, which meant that he and those people had conflicts and were enemies, and the enemy of the enemy was a friend. I'm not with them. I just want to find them. They took my friend away. Su Weifeng said seriously. The black man looked at Su Weifeng's expression carefully. Seeing that he didn't seem to be lying, he suddenly seemed to think of something, and the coldness on his face gradually disappeared. Have you seen them? Su Weifeng asked tentatively. Of course I have seen them. They were on my brother's boat. But after they went there yesterday, my brother has not come back. The VIP island is just their name. It is actually called Cook Island. It takes 3 hours to get there at normal speed. My brother has not come back for a day and I can't contact him. He must have been harmed by them. The black man told about his brother. Then why didn't you go to find your brother? Su Weifeng asked in confusion. If the relatives didn't come back after knowing the destination, he should go to find them. I don't dare to go to that island. The black man sighed and told Su Weifeng about the island. The island was not called VIP Island, but some people called it VIP Island, which was very vivid. The island was an uninhabited desert island with lush vegetation, but there was only one kind of creature, VIP. Even if there were other species before, they are now gone. The whole island is full of poisonous snakes. There may be a poisonous snake crawling on the reef you step on, and the branches of the trees you see may actually be poisonous snakes. Some people who went to explore the island fled back in a panic after being bitten by poisonous snakes, but the people who were bitten by snakes were not saved, even if they were injected with serum. And the snake venom is not the most important thing. Even if it is poisonous, it is not unsolvable. The main thing is that the poisonous snakes on this island seem to be organized. As long as you attack a snake, or a snake attacks you, the snakes on the island will immediately go in your direction. If you don't escape in time, you will be eaten in an instant, and there is no need to detoxify. Su Weifeng listened to the black man's story, and a picture flashed in his mind. The scene of tens of millions of poisonous snakes pressing on a person is like burying him alive. It's chilling to think about it. In this way, he also understands why the black man dared not go to the island. If this island is so scary, why did your brother go there? Su Weifeng asked puzzledly. Well, it's just to make more money. Those people offered a price that my brother couldn't refuse. My brother went there for the money. I didn't expect it. The black man sighed. Su Weifeng frowned. What did these people do by bringing the little rabbit to the island? Did they have any way to avoid being afraid of snakes? Send me there. My friend is in their hands. I have to go anyway. Su Weifeng said to the black man seriously. No, I don't dare to go. The black man waved his hands repeatedly. How much do you say you can go? You say a number. Su Weifeng said with a smile. It's not a matter of how much money it costs. I really don't dare to go. The black man said embarrassedly. Su Weifeng asked him to name a price, which was indeed very attractive, but he had to be willing to pay for money. 10,000 US dollars. Su Weifeng stretched out a finger and said loudly. The black man swallowed his saliva. He mainly did private work. Many people who came to them were shady, so they would take their boats. The boat fare was much more expensive than the regular boats, but the most was only a few $100s. Su Weifeng directly offered $10,000, which was enough for him to make dozens of trips. It was indeed a great temptation, but he was still struggling. $30,000. Su Weifeng said again, and tripled the price. You don't have to go to the island, just send me there. 3 days later, you go around the shore over there. If I'm still alive, pull me back, and I'll give you another $30,000. Su Weifeng continued. Deal. The black man couldn't stand the test of money. This was indeed not something that ordinary people could stand. $60,000 was enough for him to enjoy for a while. Under the huge temptation, he chose to give it a try. But you have to pay first. The black man said again. No problem, I'll transfer the money to you now. Su Weifeng said with a smile. The black man decided to go out to sea for another reason. He saw those people taking a girl with him when they boarded his brother's boat. The girl was limp, as if she was sick. Combined with Su Weifeng's words, he knew that the girl should be the man's friend and was controlled by those people. So she was not their friend and would not harm him. After transferring the money to the black man, he boarded the black man's boat under the black man's guidance and headed for Cook Island overnight. The black man's boat was a speedboat. Although it was not very big, it was very fast. It took a little more than 2 hours to see a huge shadow in the distance. That's Cook Island. The black man pointed to the island and said to Su Weifeng. The sun had come out at this time. As time went by, the path became clearer. The island was indeed very dense. The whole island was shrouded in green vegetation. There was only a short beach on the shore. Such a densely vegetated island was indeed rare. No wonder so many venomous snakes lived there. The dark and humid environment was exactly what venomous snakes liked. Is that boat your brother's? Su Weifeng pointed to a beach where a boat was parked. Yes, it's my brother's. The black man said as he drove the speedboat over there. Brother, brother, the black man didn't dare to go ashore and shouted loudly on the speedboat. But he didn't get any response. He was also very anxious, but he didn't dare to go up to take a look, fearing that he would end up like his brother. He thought his brother had died. I'll help you take a look. Su Weifeng sighed when he saw the anxious look of the black man and said softly. Anyway, he was going to go ashore, so he went to take a look on the boat and helped a little. Thank you so much. The black man was very happy and thanked Su Weifeng profusely. As soon as Su Weifeng got ashore, he walked towards the big boat. Fortunately, there were no poisonous snakes near the beach, which also made Su Weifeng feel relieved. Chapter 908, Python Guarding the Door. He boarded the big boat, which was actually a speedboat, just a few sizes larger than the black man's. The boat was quite new. Su Weifeng checked it and found nothing wrong. Life buoys and other things were all available, just like a normal docking, but there was no one. He gestured to the black man, who was in a low mood. Although he was prepared, he was still very disappointed, which showed that his brother had met with an accident. After saying goodbye to Su Weifeng, the black man drove the speedboat away from the island of poisonous snakes and agreed that the man would come around the island every day. If Su Weifeng was alive, he would wait at his brother's boat on the shore. Su Weifeng walked towards the interior of the island. As soon as he walked into the shade of the trees, he saw 2 big snakes as thick as bowls crawling towards him. These were 2 pythons. Although they were thick, they were not poisonous. It seemed that not all snakes on the island were poisonous. Seeing the venomous snake approaching, Su Weifeng was ready for the battle. He took out a dagger from his waist. It was the ivory knife seized from the plane. This ivory dagger was very small and easy to carry, but it was very sharp. Su Weifeng crouched down, with his legs slightly bent one in front of the other, ready to attack. He was confident that he could cut off the snake's head the moment it attacked. However, the 2 pythons seemed to have discovered Su Weifeng's plan and stopped at a distance from Su Weifeng. This distance was already very close. Su Weifeng was very confused. At such a close distance, why didn't the 2 pythons attack him? You know, this is definitely the best attack distance. Even he couldn't help but attack. The 2 snakes spit out their claws and sniffed at Su Weifeng's body like dogs. Su Weifeng was a little speechless. How could they not look like snakes, but like 2 dogs? But Su Weifeng did not relax his vigilance. He still stared at the 2 big pythons. His body was tense and ready to attack at any time. Just over a minute passed, but Su Weifeng felt like an hour had passed. Being sniffed so closely by 2 giant pythons was only for Su Weifeng. If it were someone else, he would have been swallowed in panic. But he was also exhausted. Fortunately, after sniffing for a while, the 2 giant pythons actually swam away and continued to sleep by the tree just now, like 2 guards. Su Weifeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He also listened to the black man's words and did not attack the giant pythons. He was not afraid of the 2 pythons, but he was afraid that if he hurt an island of snakes, all the snakes would attack him. Now the black man's speedboat had already left. If he was really chased by the poisonous snakes on the island, he would be buried alive by these snakes and even crushed to death. Su Weifeng walked gently inside. The 2 pythons ignored him this time. As he walked inside, he encountered several more waves of poisonous snakes, but they were all like the 2 pythons. They either ignored him or came to his side to smell and then did what they had to do. I can't walk blindly. I should go to higher places. If those people live here, they should be willing to find a commanding height, which will also help to prevent the surrounding crisis, Su Weifeng thought. He walked in this way too, for a long time, about an hour. He felt that he should have reached the highest point of the island, because it was downhill. Unfortunately, there were still trees nearby, and looking down, there were still trees, and there was nothing to find. Su Weifeng smiled bitterly in his heart. If the troops came in, it would be easy to find abnormalities easily by carpet searching, but he was alone, and there was no need to think about carpet searching. Even if he didn't consider the problem of his need for rest, it would take months. Otherwise he could only look blindly and try his luck. But obviously this method was also very bad. He had already regretted why he only told the black man 3 days how to find in these 3 days, but it didn't matter. The first thing was to find those people. Suddenly Su Weifeng smelled a bloody smell. Since he cultivated the true key, Su Weifeng's perception ability was particularly strong, and his sense of smell was far beyond that of ordinary people. Su Weifeng followed the smell and walked in one direction. After a while, he found a stone cave covered by vines outside. The smell of blood came from here. Why is it so similar to the white bear cave he encountered before? Su Weifeng thought to himself, could this also be a bear cave? But it shouldn't be. This is Snake Island. Judging from the scale of these poisonous snakes, he has seen hundreds of them along the way. These are the ones blocking his way in the open, and the ones in the dark are not counted. Given the density of these poisonous snakes, even if a tiger comes, it can't expect to survive in this Snake Island. Since it can't be other wild animals, it can only be a snake cave. Thinking of the densely packed poisonous snakes in the cave, like a carpet covering the ground, Su Weifeng's scalp numbs a little when he thinks of this. This is too scary. But there is another possibility. This cave is not a snake nest, but a human nest. Maybe there are people in it. The more he thought about it, the more this possibility seemed to him. Su Weifeng made up his mind and went into the cave little by little. As soon as he pushed aside the vines, he saw 2 giant pythons standing up and rushing towards Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng was startled, but he did not panic. He just stood there quietly, staring at the 2 giant pythons. The 2 giant pythons came in front of Su Weifeng, and Su Weifeng could see clearly that the 2 giant pythons were even thicker than the 2 giant pythons outside. Their bodies were as thick as a small bucket. They looked Su Weifeng up and down, and they were more spiritual than the giant pythons outside. Su Weifeng felt like he was being stared at for a while. This feeling was very strange. He seemed to be able to see doubts in the eyes of the giant pythons. The 2 giant pythons smelled him again, and finally swam back, lying at the door of the stone cave, closing their eyes, and taking a nap. Is this evolution? Like gorillas, have they evolved to have high IQ and emotions? Su Weifeng thought boldly in his heart. Su Weifeng walked in tentatively. When the 2 giant pythons heard the sound, they just opened their eyes and glanced at Su Weifeng, and then ignored him. Su Weifeng was not used to this dark environment when he first came in. After a while, he gradually adapted. This cave is very long, and the surface shape is very neat. It looks like it was repaired by humans. After walking for a while, Su Weifeng didn't even see a snake. It was not until he turned a corner that Su Weifeng saw a faint light coming from the end. Su Weifeng was surprised and knew that he might have found the right place. If there were no people, even if the snakes were smart, they would not be able to make a light. Su Weifeng followed the guidance of the light and quickly came to the direction of the light. As soon as he arrived here, a big snake blocked Su Weifeng's way. Su Weifeng was full of black lines. Are these pythons guards? Why must there be 1 or 2 at each level? There were 2 pythons blocking the way. As soon as we got to the island, 2 more gatekeepers appeared after we entered the cave. There were more when we got to the light. Moreover, this giant python completely blocked the light in this area, and we couldn't see what the glowing object was behind it. Chapter 909, Secret Room Stone Platform. This giant snake was much bigger than the one Su Weifeng had seen before. It was now motionless with its eyes closed. If it hadn't moved occasionally, Su Weifeng would have suspected that it was a dead snake. Su Weifeng tried to bypass the giant snake, but it was too big and he couldn't get past it even from its side. Looking at it, Su Weifeng couldn't help but frowned. Could he still pull this big snake away? Just as Su Weifeng was thinking about this, the big snake seemed to finally sense that there was a small thing in front of it. It opened its black eyes, that were comparable to cow eyes, and locked its gaze on Su Weifeng. Seeing the big snake move, Su Weifeng was startled, but he didn't panic too much. He had a lot of experience along the way. No matter what kind of snake it was, it would just smell it on him and ignore it. I wonder if this giant python would do the same. The big snake spit out its core, making a hissing sound, and looked at Su Weifeng with a puzzled look in its eyes. If he only looked at its eyes, Su Weifeng felt like he was being stared at by someone, not a snake. Seeing that Su Weifeng did not react, the snake glared with its big eyes, as if it was a little angry, and swam towards Su Weifeng. After the snake left the original place, Su Weifeng could see clearly that there was a cave behind the snake, and the light came from there. Through the light, Su Weifeng vaguely saw that there was a cave with steps extending downwards. It seemed to be a fire. It seemed that the person should be below. Who could let these big snakes guard the door? Could it be a scientific research institution? If so, it would be a bit troublesome. Which of those secret laboratories is not a secret of a big country? The security personnel are armed to the teeth. It is really not easy to deal with it without weapons. Feeling the fishy smell, Su Weifeng immediately came back to his senses. The big snake in front of him was right in front of him, and the core was almost licking his face. Su Weifeng felt a chill, which was disgusting. It was really too smelly. However, the big snake swam back after smelling it for a while, and did not attack him like the python before. Su Weifeng saw that the big snake was going back, so he jumped out first and surpassed the big snake in one go. He wanted to go into the cave to take a look before the big snake returned to the cave entrance. The big snake felt the movement behind it, but just looked at Su Weifeng and did not stop him. It seemed that he did not care at all. For the first time, Su Weifeng found that being ignored felt so good, even though he was a snake. After walking down the steps, he could see clearly that there was an empty stone room of about 50 square meters under the steps, and there was a stone door on one wall of the stone room. The stone door was ajar, and there seemed to be sound coming from the door. He tiptoed to the stone door and looked through the crack in the door to see a large space inside. It was still a stone room. There were oil lamps on the walls around the stone room. Su Weifeng could clearly see the situation inside the stone room through the crack in the door. There was a round stone platform in the middle of the stone room, about 10 meters in diameter and 1 meter high. Su Weifeng immediately saw a naked girl lying in the middle of the stone platform. Su Weifeng's blood was boiling. The girl was Qiao Yushan. At this time, Qiao Yushan had gauze wrapped around her right wrist, and some deep red color was visible in the gauze. Looking at this girl he liked, Su Weifeng felt a pain in his heart. He couldn't imagine what Qiao Yushan had encountered. He only hated her at this time. He had never wanted to kill someone as much as he did now. Su Weifeng's eyes were blazing with fire, staring at the 3 black-robed men standing on the side. The 3 men formed a triangle and stood around Qiao Yushan, staring at Qiao Yushan on the stone platform. Just when Su Weifeng couldn't help but take action, a voice suddenly rang out. "Brother, there is no news from the killer we are looking for. Is there something wrong?" A middle-aged man said in a hoarse voice. "That shouldn't be the case. I heard from the middleman that this assassin is the best in the world. It should be easier to investigate a person than to kill him," said another old man. Su Weifeng knew that the 2 people who were talking were the ones who were going to catch Qiao Yushan. He had heard the black man's story on the speedboat. It was a man with a hoarse voice and an old man who went to the island that day. As for the third person, he was a man with a faceless mask. He stood there straight and didn't say a word. "Brother, you can still listen to the broker. He is a businessman. Even if he picked someone from the roadside, he dared to say that he was a top assassin. Such a person can't be trusted," said the man with a hoarse voice. "Alas, I know that we don't expect him to find out anything. It would be best if he had news about ZU. Even if he didn't, it doesn't matter. We have this jade bracelet and this girl, which is enough for us to practice," said the old man. "This girl is really beautiful and watery. She is really top notch. It would be a pity to waste her like this. How about I play with her first?" said the man with a hoarse voice. "You are obsessed with 6. Why do you still think about this? If she is not a virgin, what is the point of us offering her as a sacrifice? When we have mastered our cultivation, we can have any beautiful woman we want. The old man scolded. He was very disappointed with this junior brother, who just had no overall view. The third masked man still did not speak, and the two men seemed to be used to it, and did not say anything to him. I was just joking. I don't know which one is more important. It's just that this purple jade is a little rare. If there is a large amount of purple jade, we may be able to upgrade to the heaven level. Ha ha ha. The man with a hoarse voice said. Do you think purple jade is a stone from outside? A large amount of purple jade. This piece takes tens of millions of years to form, and it can only be formed in a place where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathers. What we found before were very small fragments, far less perfect than this bracelet. It's just a pity. If we had obtained this purple jade right after it was cut, it would be a large amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Now it has almost dissipated, but there is still a little left, but it is enough for us to upgrade to the mysterious level. The old man said. Su Weifeng had already heard from their intermittent conversation that these people were robbing the purple jade for cultivation. Although the spiritual power in the purple jade bracelet had been led to the danshan of his body, there seemed to be some residue inside. These people use this altar to convert the purple spiritual power into absorbable internal power through sacrifice, so that several people could improve their internal power. This was just like the transmission of skills in martial arts novels. These people used evil methods to quickly improve their skills, and Chuzaro to seem to be a medium and a sacrifice. While the two black-robed men were talking, Chuzaro to slowly woke up, opened his eyes, and looked around blankly, not knowing where he was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 910 Choosing Death. Chuzaro to finally regained consciousness. Seeing the three men in black around her, she immediately remembered something, and felt a little cold. She realized that she was lying naked on the ground. Her heart suddenly turned cold, and she screamed loudly, "Ah, you beasts, what did you do to me?" Chuzaro was scared and cried. She wanted to get up, but found that she had no strength at all. It was very difficult to turn her head. "Humph, little girl, you are lucky. You are a sacrifice. I can't touch you. Otherwise, haha, I would have eaten you long ago," the man with a hoarse voice said. "Sacrifice?" Chuzaro said subconsciously. "Yes, we will drain your blood in a well and use your blood to light up the formation on the altar," said the man with a hoarse voice, licking his lips as he spoke. "So I haven't been violated?" Chuzaro said with some surprise. "Aren't you afraid of death?" the man with a hoarse voice said angrily. He had deliberately described the process of sacrifice in order to scare the girl. It was also a warm-up in advance. It would be very exciting to watch her die in fear. Unexpectedly, the little girl was excited because she was not violated. What he said had no effect at all. "Of course I'm afraid of death, but as long as I have not let my husband down, I will die," Chuzaro said calmly, like a soldier ready to die generously. Su Weifeng really wanted to rush up and hug the girl. It would be a lie to say that he was not moved. However, since Ziro was fine now, he would wait for a while. Anyway, they would all die soon. I would see what secrets they had. If I give you a chance to sleep with me, you don't have to die. We will change the sacrifice. What do you choose? Said the man with a hoarse voice. The old man was about to scold, but he saw the man gestured to him, and he understood. The man with the hoarse voice didn't dare to touch the girl at all. Even if the girl chose to sleep with him, he was a dark man who liked to torture and abuse her, whether it was physical or psychological, which could give him pleasure. He said that he wanted to give the girl a chance, especially since the girl just showed that she was not afraid of death, but was more afraid of being violated. At that time, the girl had no choice. But now it's different. He gave the girl a chance. Who would die with the chance to live? If it was him, he would definitely not choose death. He wanted the girl to choose to betray her husband after a strong mental struggle and get a chance to live. Then tell her that the time has passed, the choice is invalid, and she has to be bled to death. At that time, the girl will suffer a double mental blow, which will make him very excited. Haha, of course I choose to die. Qiao said firmly. Okay, this is your last chance. If you die, you will have nothing. Are you willing to die? The blood will flow out of your body like water. You will hear and feel it clearly. The man with a hoarse voice described the scene vividly. He had experienced this scene countless times, and he was so excited every time. I choose death, but my husband will never let you go. You will all be buried with me. Qiao said viciously. Her voice was very firm. At this time, she was no longer weak as usual, but very brave. Su Weifeng secretly praised in his heart. This is my girlfriend. Good job. Your husband is probably dead by now. We found a female killer to pretend to be you and go home for you. Your husband is not at a loss. He can have a good time with that woman before he dies. That female killer is a beautiful woman. Your husband can be a playboy even after death. It's not a loss. Ha ha ha. The man with a hoarse voice said deliberately, just to make the girl collapse. No, you lied to me. My husband won't do that, and he won't die. Qiao said firmly. You won't cry until you see the coffin. The man with a hoarse voice was very angry when he saw that the girl really didn't believe him. Don't play. The time is almost up, the old man said. The man with a hoarse voice snorted coldly and finally suppressed the anger in his heart. This girl is at best just a mouse, a toy of the cat. If you don't want to play with her, just kill her. Little girl, your boyfriend is really good to you. He gave you this purple jade as an ornament. Does your boyfriend have this kind of thing? The old man said gently. He wanted to test the girl's words. If there is really, then the middleman didn't move. Did he embezzle it? If so, what exactly is this purple jade? You are just for it? Qiao also understood the key to the problem. Instead of answering the old man's question, she asked. This is not an ordinary jade. It is a congenital spiritual jade. There is congenital spiritual energy in it. However, the congenital spiritual energy began to spread the moment the stone skin was cut. However, it is impossible for all the congenital spiritual energy to be scattered. This purple jade itself is formed by spiritual energy. You carry it every day. Although the spiritual energy is very small at this time, it is also gradually changing your physique. If you always carry it, it will beautify your skin and prolong your life. These are the most basic things. Ha ha ha. The old man smiled proudly. It turns out that the things my husband gave me are so precious. Qiao muttered in a low voice. This is a legendary treasure, far beyond the measurement of a few 100 million. Thinking of this, her heart warmed up, and the fear of death faded a little. We use you as a sacrifice, because you wear it every day, and are contaminated with spiritual energy. It is best to use you as a sacrifice, to transform this innate spiritual energy. However, if you can take out more purple jade, then we will not need you. The spiritual energy you are contaminated with is only negligible, which is better than nothing. The old man said in a persuasive manner. As for releasing Qiao, it is impossible. How can other women have the same effect as her spiritual sacrifice? My husband has no purple jade. You can kill me. My husband will definitely avenge me. Qiao said loudly. Haha, if your husband doesn't die, he can't avenge you. Do you know where this is? This is a venomous snake island. The old man sneered and said, very disdainful of the husband mentioned by the little girl. Qiao had never heard of this name, but it sounded like it was not a good place. There are millions of venomous snakes on this island. Anyone who dares to go to the island will be swallowed by the venomous snakes in minutes. They can't even get here. This is the center of the island, and there are giant pythons guarding it. The old man said proudly. Then how did you get up here? Qiao frowned. Chapter 911, Zuan Level Master. I heard that there are so many poisonous snakes on this island. Qiao is a girl after all, and she has a natural fear of this kind of creatures. At this time, she prayed in her heart that her husband must not find this place. Of course we can go to the island, because we have a snake speaker. The hoarse voice man shouted loudly, looking very proud. Hearing the words of the man with a hoarse voice, the masked man made a move for the first time. He turned his head and stared at the man with a hoarse voice. He seemed very angry that he had exposed his identity. The man with a hoarse voice seemed to be very afraid of the masked man. After being stared at, he lowered his head and dared not speak nonsense anymore. The old man frowned at the man with a hoarse voice. This kid was too unstable. If he hadn't been watching him, he might have caused a lot of trouble outside. He couldn't figure out what he could say and what he couldn't say. Snake speaker? Su Weifeng was also stunned when he heard this word. He had only heard the word snake speaker in a magic novel. He didn't expect that such a person really existed in reality. He looked at the masked man with a little more fear. Su Weifeng was not afraid of these three men. He was confident that he could handle them with his own strength. But if this man could control poisonous snakes, it would be an uncertain factor. If he could only control a few, it would be easy. If he could really control all the poisonous snakes on the island, it would be terrifying. He could completely defeat an army by himself. However, he did not believe that this man had that kind of strength. Time's up. The masked man finally spoke. His voice was very strange, as if he was roaring from his throat. As the masked man spoke, he took out the purple jade bracelet and placed it on the altar. Beside Chu Xiao 2, 3 black-robed men took out a dagger and slashed it across their palms. Strands of blood dripped from their fingers onto the altar. After the masked man slashed his palm, he walked towards Chu Xiao 2 with the dagger. The three of them just needed a little blood to connect with the altar, but Chu Xiao 2 was not. She was a sacrifice and needed to shed all her blood. Chu Xiao 2 saw that the masked man had come to her side. With one hand, he took up her wrist without gauze, and with the other hand, he was about to cut it with a dagger. Chu Xiao 2 felt that death was so close to her, and sad tears flowed from her eyes. Goodbye, mom and dad. Husband, you have to live well. Husband, I love you. Chu Xiao 2 had closed her eyes, and tears were still flowing from the corners of her eyes. She said softly. This was what she wanted to say to that person the most, but unfortunately he could no longer hear it. I love you too. A man's voice sounded in the distance, and his words were full of love. You can't pretend to like someone. Husband. Chu Xiao 2 suddenly opened her eyes and looked from a distance. A man was walking slowly in from the stone gate, looking at her with a smile. Su Weifeng's eyes were also a little wet. He didn't expect that this girl had such deep feelings for him. He was deeply moved. When Chu Xiao 2 saw Su Weifeng coming, the strength she had just tried to pretend to be collapsed in an instant. All the grievances and fears in her heart surged into her heart, and she burst into tears. She thought she would never see Su Weifeng again. Xiao 2, don't be afraid, it's okay, dear, don't be afraid. Su Weifeng said softly, but Chu Xiao 2's ears were filled with conviction that, as long as her husband said it was okay, it must be okay. The masked man was very unhappy to be interrupted, and let go of Chu Xiao 2 and stood up. It was not suitable to sacrifice at this time, because of external factors. At this time, his brows were furrowed under the mask, but no one saw it. Boy, you came at the right time, so we don't have to look for you. Your woman is waiting for you. I will kill you in front of her today, and see if she will still be so calm. The man with a hoarse voice said with a grin, but he was very angry in his heart. This girl is not afraid of death just for this man, so I will kill you in front of her, and see if she will collapse. Wait. The man with a hoarse voice was about to rush towards Su Weifeng with a dagger in his hand, but was stopped by the old man. This old man is not as stubborn as the middle-aged man. The girl's boyfriend came here, which means a lot of information. Did he kill the killer and the middleman to find this place? Or has he reached an agreement with the middleman to come here to deal with us and get the method to use the purple jade? Neither of these two is good news, and he can cross the island to come here, which is even more disturbing. Hello young man, you can come here, which also shows that you are a strong man. If you can provide more purple jade, we can share the method of using these purple jades with you. The old man said with a smile, and at the same time, his hands behind his back were already gesturing to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man laughed hoarsely and rushed towards Su Weifeng in one step. The old man wanted to stop him but couldn't, and cursed in his heart. I'm not gesturing to you to attack, but to let you wait for the opportunity. I'll first trap him, maybe I can get something, and then you can strike unexpectedly. But it is obvious that his combat intentions are very complicated, and the middle-aged man with a hoarse voice didn't understand it at all. The middle-aged man, holding a dagger in his hand, plunged into Su Weifeng's arms, ready to stab him through. He was also at the peak of the yellow level, and had planned to directly advance to the mysterious level through today's sacrifice, but he didn't expect to be interrupted. However, the peak of the yellow level is also a strong man. If it weren't for someone like him who took shortcuts, there would be very few people at his age who could reach the peak of the yellow level. Seeing a young man like Su Weifeng, he didn't take it seriously at all. As a result, the middle-aged man didn't feel proud for a few seconds, and Su Weifeng's shoe soles were directly printed on his face. The middle-aged man screamed in his heart, "What?" and fell on his back, sliding several meters away until his head hit the altar and stopped. The middle-aged man stood up, holding his head, which was already dizzy. Now his face was covered with blood, especially the blood from his nose, which was like running water, rushing out. There was a big bump on his head, which was caused by his head hitting the altar. Fortunately, the friction on the ground had greatly slowed down the speed, otherwise his head would have been broken. "Boy, I'm going to kill you," the middle-aged man shouted loudly. It had been a long time since he suffered such a big loss. He secretly used his internal energy to stop the nosebleed and rushed forward again. "Young man, you are actually at the Zuan level? According to your age, you can cultivate to the Zuan level. A genius like you must be a famous person. I don't know what to call you." The old man stopped the middle-aged man. He saw clearly, just now, that his junior brother was at the peak of the Huang level. In this Galan area, he was completely a great master. There must be a handful of people who could surpass him. Chapter 912 Cooperation Conditions. But even such a strong man at the peak of the yellow level couldn't even take a single move from the other person, and was stepped on the face by the other person. This must be the Zuan level. The Zuan level is far different from the yellow level warriors. This is a real entry into the house. This is the object that most big families don't want to provoke. And this young man is actually such a strong man. He seemed to be dreaming, and couldn't believe it for a while. The old man himself is also Zuan level, but he used the secret method to force the Zuan level, and now he is only at the Zuan level. Hearing the words of the senior brother, the middle-aged man suddenly widened his eyes. Did he hear it wrong? What did the senior brother say just now? Zuan level? How is it possible? How can this young man be Zuan level? With the addition of the secret method, he is only at the peak of the yellow level now. If this is the case, he will die if he goes up. Thinking of this, he stopped immediately and leaned against the altar and didn't dare to be impulsive anymore. "You should know who I am. Do you still need to ask me?" Su Weifeng sneered. "We were reckless. For a Zuan level expert who can be on equal footing with us, it is our fault that he attacked you without a thorough investigation. We will compensate you. You don't want to be our enemy, do you?" The old man smiled and said, seemingly polite, but he still put himself in a superior position. "Who are you? What compensation can you give me?" Su Weifeng said coldly. He was ready to kill, but he had to know the other party's identity first, so that he could cut the grass and root it out without leaving any trouble. The old man thought that Su Weifeng also wanted to resolve the matter peacefully and did not have the courage to fight to the death with him. "You should know that the three of them are also very powerful. He is Zuan level, and the other two are both at the peak of Huang level. If they fight to the death, Su Weifeng will definitely die in the end. Even if there are casualties on his side, it will not be him." Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the two junior brothers. If it were him, he would also choose to get some benefits instead of both sides being hurt. For a person of his level, external things are nothing, and women are even more playthings. Only himself is the most important, and nothing else can't be used as a bargaining chip. "We come from an ancient sect, the Hidden Sect. Our Hidden Sect has been passed down for hundreds of years. There have been Earth-level masters in the sect. What you see now is just one of our branches overseas. Our lineage is actually the guardian of Snake Island, guarding this small island for the Hidden Sect. We have a way to improve our internal strength by absorbing external spiritual energy," the old man said proudly. "Is the spiritual energy in the purple jade what you mean by absorbing external spiritual energy?" Su Weifeng asked. "Yes, not only purple jade, but also some other spiritual raw stones can be used, but this purple jade is the raw stone with the purest spiritual power we know. Then how do you convert it into internal power? Can't you just absorb it directly? Su Weifeng thought about it and said, this is also a question that he has always been puzzled about. What is the matter with the purple true energy he absorbed? Can he use it? Young man, you are not from our hidden sect. It is normal that you don't understand. Only our hidden sect can convert this innate raw stone into internal power. No one else can do it. Of course, this requires some formation rituals. The old man said. Su Weifeng understood what he was talking about. It was this kind of sacrifice, using living people for sacrifice. Su Weifeng had heard of this kind of witchcraft before, but most of them were lies. He didn't expect that this hidden door could really extract the spiritual energy from the raw stone. This was something he didn't expect, but he couldn't accept this way of refining. As for what you said about absorbing this spiritual energy into your body, this is simply impossible. The reason why spiritual energy is that it is not something that mortals can control. How can it be controlled by non-innate people? Only by extracting it through the formation and converting it into internal force can it be used by us. The old man said. After hearing his words, Su Weifeng was even more confused. If spiritual energy is not something that ordinary people can absorb, then he did absorb it. What's going on? Could it be that he is not a mortal, but a god? He would never believe it, even if he was beaten to death. We can definitely join forces. You provide the purple jade, and we provide the technology and altar. We can improve our strength together. Isn't it great? We each do our own job. This way, the speed of improving internal strength will be faster. The earth level can be expected in this life. The old man became more and more excited as he spoke, as if the earth level was right in front of him. Not interested. Su Weifeng spat out 3 words coldly. The old man widened his eyes and looked at Su Weifeng in disbelief. He actually refused such a good opportunity. This is a much easier method than practicing by himself. Why is this person not tempted? He is very puzzled. Su Weifeng immediately thought of the disadvantages of this method of improvement. This kind of internal strength is not cultivated by oneself, but forced into the body like cramming. It must not be so compatible, and it will not be so perfect to use. In other words, the actual strength obtained by such improvement is empty, and there is no way to fight against enemies of the same level. Su Weifeng was right. The old man's secret method is indeed like this. No matter what realm he reaches, he is the weakest person in that realm. And even if there is no such disadvantage, Su Weifeng will not sacrifice human life to improve his strength. This kind of thing is too cruel, and he cannot accept it. Now you have only 2 choices, either cooperate with us or die. To show our sincerity, we will let you feel the effect of the secret method today, and let you experience the feeling of filling up your internal strength. It is really like refueling a car, very comfortable. The old man continued to tempt. The benefit you said is to kill my girlfriend and then use the bracelet to absorb the internal force. Su Weifeng's face became even colder. He didn't expect that these people would talk about cooperation with him, but they would even sacrifice their girlfriends. What kind of thinking is this? How dare they talk to him like this? A real man has no worries about having a wife. Women are nothing. Our own strength is the most important. If my woman was useful as a sacrifice, I would have caught her long ago. The old man said loudly, as if he was educating a younger generation and correcting his outlook on life. Brother, do you have a woman in your body? The man with a hoarse voice couldn't help laughing. The old man was so angry. Why did he destroy his own stage? Didn't people on the internet say that teammates were bad? They were talking about him. But now Su Weifeng was present, and he couldn't get angry. He could only glare at his junior brother. Are you done? Su Weifeng said with a cold smile. The old man narrowed his eyes. Was he going to start a war? He actually didn't accept such generous conditions. Now that you finished, let me tell you my conditions. Su Weifeng laughed. What are your conditions? The old man was obviously a little unhappy. He didn't expect that the young man was still unsatisfied and wanted conditions. If it was too much, he would risk his life to keep him. As for who has the highest chance of sacrifice? After thinking about it, he still looked at the man with a hoarse voice. Chapter 913. The Golden Python appears. After hearing his words, The masked man, who had been silent all this time, also looked at Su Weifeng. He, who had always been emotionless, began to wonder what demands this young man could make. "My condition is that you all have to die." Su Weifeng stomped his right foot on the ground, and the whole person flew up and shot towards the altar. "You want to die?" the old man shouted loudly. He felt that he was being fooled. The young man had just treated his passionate speech as a joke and had been playing tricks on him. The old man roared and rushed forward. Seeing this, the middle-aged man and the masked man followed and rushed towards Su Weifeng. Soon, the four men had fought in a group. Su Weifeng moved his true energy to his hands. His two palms were like crystal jade, but they could break monuments and split rocks. Su Weifeng used the assassination technique of the army, which was honed on the battlefield and in the jungle. It was completely different from the traditional martial arts moves of the three black-robed men. It focused more on the flexibility of the body, and the attack was unexpected. There were no extra fancy moves, and each attack was fatal. Although the three black-robed men had profound skills, they paid too much attention to the use of moves and strived for perfection in each move. Instead, they did not do what Su Weifeng wanted. Su Weifeng did not fight hard and focused the main attack points on the black-robed masked man, because although the old man seemed to have the highest martial arts and the deepest internal strength among the three people, the most mysterious one was the masked man. If he could really drive a python, he would definitely be the most dangerous one. Finally, Su Weifeng seized an opportunity, and his finger turned into a knife, elegantly slashing across the masked man's neck. A line of blood slowly oozed out of the masked man's neck, and blood oozes out. The masked man opened his mouth in disbelief, spitting out only one word, and then slowly fell on the altar, and the blood on his neck began to gush out. This is because Su Weifeng poured his true energy into his fingers, making his fingers sharper than a knife. Moreover, the wound caused by Su Weifeng's knife was much deeper than it looked on the surface. This is why the masked man died without a chance to speak. When he was about to kill the other two black-robed men, the two men jumped out of the ring and looked at the innermost part of the stone chamber in horror. Su Weifeng followed their gaze, and his eyes widened for a moment. He didn't pay attention to the inside when he first came in, and his attention was on the black-robed men on the altar. Only then did he see clearly that there was a pool in the stone chamber. It was so dark that he couldn't see how deep it was. At this time, a huge triangular head like a wash basin appeared in the pool, and it was the largest wash basin. Gradually, his body slowly left the pool and crawled into the stone chamber. This was a golden python. The giant pythons outside were like children compared to it. This giant python was golden all over, and under the illumination of the surrounding torches, the scales on its body shone with golden light. The huge golden python was as strong as an adult bull, and its length was more than 10 meters. As soon as it swam into the stone chamber, Su Weifeng felt the hairs on his body exploded. He felt a sense of crisis from the python. Su Weifeng had never seen or heard of such a big snake. Was it going to become a spirit, or was it a prehistoric species? The golden python came to the altar and stopped. It coiled more than 10 times, and its head as big as a basin was raised high, almost hitting the top of the stone chamber. Looking at the giant python in front of them, everyone's heart was lifted up, as if it stopped beating. Su Weifeng saw that the python was running towards the altar, picked up Chu Xiaotu and jumped down, jumped to the other side of the altar, and shook with the two black-robed men. "Boy, you killed us all. The only person who can communicate with snakes here was killed by you. We are all going to die here today." The old man had lost his calmness and shouted in panic. "What is this snake? How did it get here?" Su Weifeng said softly, afraid of disturbing the golden giant python. He didn't have the confidence to fight with this golden giant python. Just looking at the thickness of its body, it could be used as a road roller when placed on the ground. "This is the local spiritual beast raised by our hidden sect ancestor," the old man said. "What spiritual beast? It sounds very high sounding. Why don't you say it is a divine beast?" Su Weifeng was disdainful in his heart, but he didn't say it out loud. "Our ancestor is a snake speaker and can communicate with this golden python." Through his narration, Su Weifeng learned that this giant python didn't know what kind of natural treasures it had swallowed, but it actually lived for hundreds of years. After coming to this poisonous snake island with the ancestor, it never left. Instead, it developed this place into its territory and became a veritable snake king. Hundreds of thousands of poisonous snakes on the island obeyed it. At this time, the golden python was no longer controlled by the younger generation of the hidden sect, but the snake talker among the younger generation of the hidden sect also reached an agreement with it and built an underground palace here and engraved the sect's secret formation here, letting the golden python guard it. As a benefit, the snake talkers in the sect would send blood food from time to time, and when using the altar, they would also share some of the extracted spiritual energy with it. And this golden python only recognized the snake talker, and it would not trade with anyone else in the sect except the snake talker. Today, the snake talker they brought was killed by Su Weifeng. The golden python had been waiting eagerly in the pool for the spiritual energy, but unexpectedly, an accident happened, and the snake talker died. No matter how the fight happened, it was just a small ant to it, and the snake talker was just a small ant that could benefit it. Without the communication of the snake speaker, the golden python will definitely eat us. Even if it doesn't eat us, without the snake speaker, we can't leave this island. The snakes on this island will attack other creatures when they see them, and they will fight to the death. The old man said, looking at Su Weifeng with a look of resentment. Boy, you have lived enough, but we haven't lived enough. This time, you don't want to run away, and your little girlfriend, stay here and be lunch for our golden python. The man with a hoarse voice said angrily. Husband, will we be eaten by the big snake? Chu Xiaotu was shrinking in Su Weifeng's arms at this time, looking at the big snake in front of her in horror. Are you afraid, Xiaotu? Su Weifeng said with a smile. Are you afraid? But I'm not afraid when I'm with my husband. I don't have any regrets to die with my husband. Chu Xiaotu looked into Su Weifeng's eyes and said seriously. Haha, we won't die, we will get out. Su Weifeng said seriously. Yeah. Chu Xiaotu nodded in response. She just felt that Su Weifeng was comforting her, but it didn't matter anymore. Boy, you still want to go out? You're dreaming. You and your girlfriend will both die. You will be swallowed by this golden python. Its body will wriggle and crush your bones. Then the stomach acid will break you down into carbohydrates bit by bit. The man with a hoarse voice said viciously. He knew that this would not scare Su Weifeng, but it would definitely scare Chu Xiaotu. He couldn't deal with them now, but he couldn't let them be happy before he died. Chapter 914 Escape from the Cave. Chu Xiaotu was obviously frightened by the man's words. She was ready to die, but she had never thought of dying in this way. She trembled unconsciously when she imagined the scene. At this moment, the golden python moved, and the snake head pounced down fiercely. Everyone's heart seemed to stop beating, and they stared at the huge golden head nervously. Chu Xiaotu had closed her eyes and huddled tightly in Su Weifeng's arms, her body trembling violently. Su Weifeng held Chu Xiaotu, relaxed his body to maintain the best reaction speed, and slightly bent his legs, ready to dodge. However, the golden python's target was not the people present, but the masked man on the altar. The golden python swallowed the masked man in one bite. Although the masked man could communicate with the golden python, that was all. After death, he could only serve as food. With the size of the golden python, this man was just an appetizer and could not be eaten at all. Su Weifeng and the others did not relax their vigilance. They saw the golden python swallow the masked man and then turn its eyes to both sides. Its eyes flickered, as if it was thinking about which side was more delicious. The stone room was suddenly filled with a strange atmosphere. No one dared to move, and no one dared to make a sound, for fear of being spotted by the golden python and becoming the next food. Only the swallowing sound of the golden python had not ended. The golden python suddenly moved its nose, as if it smelled something, and its eyes lit up. It lowered its huge head and smelled the purple jade bracelet on the altar, and then swallowed it in one bite. Su Weifeng seemed to hear the sound of shattering from the golden python's body. It should be that the purple jade bracelet was crushed by his flesh. What a powerful flesh it must be. It would be unimaginable if a person was swallowed. Under the gaze of everyone, the golden python actually slowly climbed onto the altar, coiled together and closed its eyes. Everyone stared at the giant on the altar in amazement, not knowing whether to take the opportunity to escape or continue waiting here. Run quickly, the golden python should have swallowed the purple jade bracelet and is digesting the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in it. It is impossible for it to digest this spiritual energy so quickly. We must escape now. If it digests it, it will eat us. The old man said to his junior brother in a low voice, and slowly began to move his feet. The man with a hoarse voice understood, and rushed out in one step, running towards the stone gate, and surpassed his senior brother in a few steps. The old man was so angry. I asked you to escape to sneak out, just in case you attracted the attention of the golden python. You are afraid that you won't notice us. He turned his head nervously and looked at the golden giant python, only to see that the golden python was still coiled on the altar, with its eyes closed, as if it had fallen asleep, and didn't even look at the few people. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief, and quickened his pace. Qiao body had just recovered a little at this time. Although she could walk, it was very strenuous. Su Weifeng simply held her, and followed the two black-robed men, to escape to the door. My clothes. Qiao suddenly pointed to a corner of the wall, where many girls' clothes were scattered. Those clothes were of all styles. Obviously, they were not Qiao's alone. This should be the place where these people piled up the clothes of the sacrificial girls. Su Weifeng quickly came to the wall, and had no time to look for Qiao's clothes. He grabbed two pieces, and stuffed them into Qiao's arms, and then fled to the door. When Su Weifeng came to the stone room outside, the two black-robed men had already climbed the stone stairs. Su Weifeng slowly closed the stone door behind him to delay his escape. Even if the golden python chased out, he could stop them. Soon Su Weifeng ran out of the stone stairs with Qiao in his arms. In the distance, two black-robed men were running out of the cave. The giant python guarding the cave entrance had a puzzled look in its eyes, as if it was thinking about what was going on and what happened, but it did not chase them. When it saw Su Weifeng holding Qiao out, the doubt in its eyes became more serious. It knew that there were only a few little creatures inside. How could they all come out? In the past, such little creatures would not come out so quickly after entering. However, it was responsible for guarding here, to block people from entering, but it did not need to block people from leaving. Thinking of this, it crawled back to its original position, and ignored Su Weifeng and the others. Su Weifeng was relieved. It seemed that the situation was not as bad as he imagined, but he did not have time to think about it. He quickly ran out of the cave with Qiao in his arms. It was safe, until they got out of the cave. The two giant pythons guarding the entrance did not attack them. They did not even look at them. They just glanced at them, and continued to sleep. Su Weifeng did not relax. He had a guess. Was it because these giant pythons guarding the door were very intelligent, so they did not attack them casually? When they came, the black man said that the poisonous snakes on this island were very repulsive to other creatures, and would attack them to death when they saw them. If so, in addition to these giant pythons being intelligent, other poisonous snakes were still very dangerous. If it were just me, it would be easy. I have many ways to get out. But now with the little rabbit, it would be difficult to escape. Outside the cave, two men in black robes were here. They did not leave, but each took out a small porcelain bottle, and was about to pour something out. However, when they saw Su Weifeng coming out, they immediately looked at him vigilantly. Boy, now everyone is in danger. If we continue to fight, both of us will be hurt and no one will benefit. The black-robed man with a hoarse voice said, "We will talk about our grievances later. We have to escape to the shore first. After we leave here, we will accompany you to the end, if you have any plans." The old man said viciously. He knew that this young man was not the kind of character that could be dealt with easily. It must be a fight to the death, and there was no need to pretend to be polite. "That's it," Su Weifeng said with a smile. The two black-robed men breathed a sigh of relief. They were also afraid that Su Weifeng would fight them to death here. Although they were not afraid of Su Weifeng, even if they joined forces, the noise of the battle would definitely attract nearby poisonous snakes. Once they were targeted, they could not escape. This group of snakes was more terrifying than a pack of wolves. However, before they could be happy for too long, two sounds of breaking through the air were heard, followed by two crisp sounds. The porcelain bottles in the hands of the two black-robed men were shattered at the same time. The yellow-white powder inside was floating everywhere in the air, and drifting with the wind. The two black-robed men were stunned and looked at their empty hands in disbelief. This was the realga that they prepared to repel snakes. They also added some other materials. The snake repellent effect was very good. This was also their trump card to escape from here. Now that they had no realga to repel snakes, it was equivalent to sentencing them to death. Whether they could escape with their lives depended on God's will. They all knew that the chance was very slim. Su Weifeng looked at them with a sneer. If Chu Xiaotu didn't need his protection, he would have killed the two culprits. They found the purple jade bracelet on Chu Xiaotu and planned to rob her. Su Weifeng had already identified them as targets to be killed. The moment he came out, Su Weifeng smelled the smell of realga. Su Weifeng, who often fought in the rainforest, knew the effect of this thing. Of course, he couldn't give them this opportunity. Without this thing, I believe he wouldn't have to do it. Chapter 915 Unwilling. Boy, I'm going to kill you. The man with a hoarse voice rushed towards Su Weifeng. His hatred had reached the extreme. He would fight for 50% of the profit, but for his own life, he didn't even think about whether he was the opponent. He just wanted to kill this man and sleep with his woman. As for how to escape later, he didn't dare to think about it. Get lost. As Su Weifeng uttered a word, the man was kicked and flew away. He lay on the ground and spit out a mouthful of blood. He no longer had the ruthlessness he had just had, but he still looked at the man with resentment, wishing to eat him alive and tear him to pieces. Do you want to die with us now? The old man also shouted loudly. He was angry in his heart, and even more angry at his junior brother's impulsiveness. If they were to fight together, even if this young man was at the Zuan level, the two of them might not be opponents. Now he hasn't reacted yet, and this impulsive junior brother went up to die by himself. Now one of his side has been seriously injured, and he immediately fell into a disadvantage. Who said we will die together? Su Weifeng sneered. You die, and we live. Su Weifeng said coldly. Okay, very good. Since you are not afraid of death, what should I be afraid of at such an old age? Come on, let's see who dies first. If you die first, haha, then your girlfriend will die first. The old man also risked his life and said viciously, still ready to attack. Killing you is too easy for you. If you dare to go after Xiaotu, I won't let you die so easily. Su Weifeng sneered. Boy, do you want to live with someone? What a joke. Let me see how you protect this girl in a while. Maybe I'll enjoy it before I die. Ha ha ha. The man with a hoarse voice swallowed a pill, and now he stood up and stood with his senior brother, laughing crazily. Su Weifeng sneered, picked up a few stones, and shot them towards the bushes in the distance. No. The man with a hoarse voice shouted. Although he was crazy and dared to fight Su Weifeng, he didn't dare to fight a venomous snake. He immediately became timid. The island was full of venomous snakes, and the bushes were the favorite place for venomous snakes. He didn't know how many venomous snakes would be attracted by throwing stones. No. The old man also shouted loudly, but it was too late. He didn't expect that the young man would be so cruel. He was not only cruel to the enemy, but also to himself. This was really going to die together. As soon as they finished speaking, there was a rustling sound in the bushes. Pointy triangular heads appeared one by one, and their cores kept swallowing and spitting. They swam towards the few people quickly. Obviously, they had been angered by the stones, especially the venomous snakes that were hit, and there were bloodstains on their scales. As more and more poisonous snakes poured out, several people felt their scalps tingling. Although these poisonous snakes were not as large as those giant pythons, they were all highly poisonous, and there were too many of them. There were no less than 100 of them in front of them. Seeing this, the two men in black robes dared not fight Su Weifeng to death here, and rushed out in another direction. They did not dare to wait for these hundreds of snakes to come. Even though they knew that rushing out like this would not necessarily alarm many poisonous snakes, they could not care so much. I will not let you go, even if I become a ghost. The man with a hoarse voice looked back at Su Weifeng before leaving, and said viciously. Su Weifeng smiled slightly, and did not run away like them. He had a guess in his heart. Now he was also gambling. If he won the bet, he would leave safely with Xiaotu. If he lost the bet, he could only fight desperately. Husband, run quickly, take me with you, we will all die here. Chu Xiaotu said anxiously, tears already flowing unconsciously. We will not die, don't worry, I'm here. Su Weifeng looked at Chu Xiaotu in his arms tenderly and comforted her. No, you have to live. I don't want you to die. You have to live for me, Chu Xiao cried. She didn't believe what Su Weifeng said, that they would be fine, and thought he was just lying to her. But soon she found that the snake group had split into two. One group was attracted by the two black-robed men who escaped and chased them, and a small part had surrounded Chu Xiao and Su Weifeng. Chu Xiao knew that it was too late to run now. She looked at Su Weifeng bitterly and hugged him tightly. Suddenly, she felt that it would be good to die with him like this. Maybe after a long time, when they became two piles of bones, they would still hug each other. Chu Xiao closed her eyes and felt that a long time had passed, as long as a century, but there was no pain. Am I dead? It turns out that death is like this, not so scary. Chu Xiao thought of this and slowly opened her eyes. What came into view was a group of venomous snakes that were dispersing. There were still a few behind that came close to Su Weifeng and sniffed, then turned around and swam away. Looking at this magical scene, Chu Xiao was already stunned. How could this be possible? Why didn't these snakes bite them? But in an instant, she felt ecstatic. But why? Now she had escaped. Su Weifeng's heart was relieved. When he came, he wondered why these snakes left without attacking him after smelling him, and those black-robed people were able to enter safely with the help of the snake speaker. In the stone chamber, he learned from the black-robed people that the purple jade contained innate spiritual energy, not the purple true energy he thought. Now there is a group of innate spiritual energy in his body, and it is much more than that contained in the purple jade bracelet. Is it that the smell of this innate spiritual energy makes this creature feel close, so it does not attack? These are just his guesses. As for the golden python, being able to swallow the purple jade bracelet, Su Weifeng was also shocked at the time. If the golden python could swallow this innate spiritual energy, he was also afraid that the giant python would swallow him, but he was standing far away at the time. First of all, it was the purple jade bracelet that attracted the attention of the golden python. After the golden python swallowed the purple jade bracelet, it fell into a deep sleep. Just now, Su Weifeng was betting whether these poisonous snakes would not attack him because of the breath of innate spiritual energy. He just deliberately used his true energy to attract the purple spiritual energy in Anshan. Although the purple spiritual energy did not react at all, he guessed that this stimulation would make the breath of innate spiritual energy more obvious. In the end, Su Weifeng's bet was right. Although he didn't know whether his stimulation of the innate true energy in Anshan had any effect, these poisonous snakes did not attack him. Since it has been confirmed, Su Weifeng is no longer anxious. He holds Chu Xiao and walks towards the direction where the two black-robed men escaped. They passed the way without any danger. Just after walking a few hundred meters, Su Weifeng and Chu Xiao saw the two black-robed men. At this time, they were already covered with dense poisonous snakes. Although they were still struggling violently, they were getting weaker and weaker. The snake venom in their bodies was already taking effect. When they saw Su Weifeng holding Chu Xiao and walking over, the two men in black robes could no longer speak, but their eyes were wide open, showing their inner shock. They didn't understand why this man was fine, why these snakes didn't attack them, and where they walked, the venomous snakes actually gave way. How could this be possible? This was unscientific. In an instant, their hearts were filled with anger and unwillingness. He was the one who provoked the venomous snakes, but he was fine. I was unwilling to accept this. But in an instant, they were buried by more venomous snakes, and there were countless wounds on their bodies that were infusing venom into their bodies. Chapter 916 Return Home. Chu Xiao was very happy and relieved to see the two bad guys being punished at first, but when he saw their painful appearance and miserable end, he still couldn't bear it and buried his head in Su Weifeng's arms and dared not look anymore. Su Weifeng touched Chu Xiao's head and walked towards the island. Along the way, Chu Xiao witnessed miracles. From time to time, poisonous snakes appeared beside the two of them, as if to say hello, and then turned around and swam away. Later, Chu Xiao got used to it and didn't care about the sudden appearance of poisonous snakes. Su Weifeng deliberately quickened his pace, and the two soon came to the small boat on the shore. Although he was not afraid of these poisonous snakes, he was afraid that the golden python would chase him. However, he was overthinking it. Even if the golden python woke up, it would not chase him out for a few small ants. Qiao was able to stand up by herself. Now that she was safe, she realized that she was naked and had been hugging Su Weifeng. Although they were already boyfriend and girlfriend, they had never been so frank with each other, nor had they done such intimate things. Her face suddenly turned red. Hurry up and put on your clothes. Don't get cold. I don't know if the clothes you just grabbed are suitable. Su Weifeng laughed at Qiao's shy look, but he had no other ideas in this environment. He was not out of danger yet. Qiao did not avoid Su Weifeng and put on the sweatpants and jacket in front of him. When she was done, her face was already red. Oh, I forgot to take my shoes. Su Weifeng slapped his forehead and remembered when he saw the girl wearing clothes, but with bare white feet. Hubby, I thought I would never see you again. Qiao suddenly threw herself into Su Weifeng's arms and burst into tears. This time she was safe, and all the grievances in her heart burst out. Xiao is fine. I will always protect you. Su Weifeng patted her back gently to comfort her. Yeah. Qiao nodded vigorously, feeling that this moment was the happiest. Su Weifeng pushed the boat to the shore and was ready to escape at any time. If the golden python did not catch up, he would wait for the black man's speedboat to pick him up tomorrow. After all, he was not familiar with this sea route. If he drove farther and farther and got lost in the sea, it would be a disaster. The day passed quickly and the island was still calm. If it was not known that this was a snake island, it would definitely be regarded as a holiday resort. The beach, sunshine, and shade of trees, everything was so beautiful and peaceful. Fortunately, until dark, the things Su Weifeng worried about did not happen. Su Weifeng and Qiao lay on their backs on the boat, looking up at the starry sky. Everything was so beautiful. Hubby, it would be nice if time could stop at this moment. Qiao held Su Weifeng's hand, with a happy smile on her face. You like this so much. There are poisonous snakes around. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Oh, you're so annoying. You ruined the atmosphere, you straight guy. Qiao wanted to bite him, but the atmosphere was gone when the snake was mentioned. Haha, what's so good about lying here? Wouldn't it be more comfortable to lie on the bed at home? Su Weifeng shook his head and laughed. He really didn't understand what this little girl was thinking. Qiao thought about it, and it was indeed like that. It was more comfortable to lie at home, but was that a home? It was a hotel. He and Su Weifeng couldn't have a home. She knew what being his girlfriend meant, but she had fallen deeply in love with him. Even if they couldn't be together forever, there would be no regrets, as long as they had a memory. Thinking of this, Qiao's sadness disappeared again. It's a pity for that bracelet. It's so precious, and it's gone just like that. Qiao said with some regret. She really liked that bracelet. She thought that, even if Su Weifeng left and was no longer by her side, the bracelet would still be a memory. But it was gone. After she had worn it for a short time, she really couldn't bear to part with it. There's nothing to regret about a bracelet. As long as Xiao is safe, I'll buy you a new one. Su Weifeng comforted. He really regretted making the purple jade into a bracelet and giving it to Qiao. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many things and Xiao wouldn't be hurt. He couldn't imagine what would happen if he arrived later or didn't find the place at all. Xiao, did they hurt your wrist? Su Weifeng suddenly remembered the gauze on Qiao's wrist and asked hurriedly. You're talking about this? I've been drowsy all the time. I felt a little pain at that time, and then I didn't feel anything soon. Qiao raised her wrist and said. Su Weifeng gently untied the gauze. There was a thin red line on Qiao's wrist, which had begun to scab. There was also white powder there, which should be a hemostatic drug. Seeing that Qiao's wrist wound was not serious, Su Weifeng was relieved. He guessed that this might be because those black-robed people took some of Xiao's blood to test whether it was suitable for sacrifice, so the wound was not very deep. Hubby, they didn't touch me, I know. Qiao suddenly lowered her head and said nervously. I know. Luckily Xiao was not hurt, otherwise I would regret it so much. Su Weifeng said softly. Then you won't want me anymore. Qiao obviously misunderstood Su Weifeng's meaning and said a little depressed. Silly girl, what are you thinking about? I want you anytime. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Chu Xiaotu realized that she was thinking too much. Husband is so good, risking his life to come here to save her. How could he not want her? Hubby, let's go back. Chu Xiaotu's voice became smaller and smaller. There's no rush. We have only known each other for a short time. We can't move too fast. Su Weifeng was sweating a little, so he had to bite the bullet and said. Su Weifeng is a young man. It's not that he doesn't want to, but that he can't. He doesn't know when he will leave, and he can't take responsibility for her. If this is the case, it will affect her future happiness. Chu Xiaotu listened to what Su Weifeng said and thought about it. Was she too proactive? She felt even more embarrassed when she thought about it, and she tried hard to get into Su Weifeng's arms. Under the starry sky, the two of them hugged each other and soon fell asleep. The next morning, just after dawn, they heard the sound of a speedboat crossing the water from the sea in the distance. Su Weifeng opened his eyes and saw a speedboat in the distance heading towards the island, getting closer and closer. Finally, he saw clearly that it was the small speedboat he was on yesterday. Su Weifeng smiled, which also announced that the incident of Xiaotu being hijacked was over. Xiaotu was also safe and sound, and the crisis was resolved this time. You actually rescued your girlfriend. You are a hero. The black man was surprised when he saw Chu Xiaotu next to Su Weifeng. He came here today just to fulfill an agreement. He never thought that Su Weifeng could come out alive. No matter those bad guys or the poisonous snakes on the island, anyone who went to the island would never come back. He didn't expect that he really saw Su Weifeng with his girlfriend when he arrived. When they arrived at Jialan, Su Weifeng thanked the speedboat boy. The reward was also indispensable. Everyone was very happy. On the way, Su Weifeng roughly told the speedboat boy that the bad guys on the island had died in Shekau. This made him feel better. His brother's revenge was also avenged. As for his brother, he had been mentally prepared. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 917, Looking for a Bodyguard. When Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu returned to the hotel, Murphy was waiting for them in the living room. When she saw that Chu Xiaotu was fine, she stood up excitedly. Sister Fei. Chu Xiaotu hugged Murphy, with mixed feelings in her heart. These were the people who cared about her. Where is the killer? Su Weifeng asked. It seems to be dead. Murphy pointed casually at Chu Xiaotu's room. Su Weifeng entered Chu Xiaotu's room and saw the female killer lying on the ground. Her face was pale. Su Weifeng squatted down and tried her breath. She was no longer breathing. She was definitely dead. Su Weifeng knew that many killers would bite the poison in their teeth and commit suicide when they knew they were going to die. She didn't commit suicide when he was forcing her to confess before, probably because she didn't have the strength. Later, she committed suicide because she knew I would never let her go. Su Weifeng made up the reason in his mind, and he didn't think that she died at Murphy's hands. He didn't care about this killer, and he really didn't want to let her go. It would be easier if she died by herself. Chu Xiaotu also followed into the room. She was numb to seeing dead people now, so she was not surprised. However, this female killer was really beautiful and looked like her. Su Weifeng had told her about the female killer pretending to be her and seducing Su Weifeng. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt sour. Hubby, this beauty has come to your door, but you didn't. Chu Xiaotu said with a bit of sourness. Haha, Xiaotu, you still don't trust me. You are much prettier than her. What can I do with her when you are here? Su Weifeng said with a wry smile. This girl was very jealous and even cared about the dead. Well, she is indeed not as pretty as me. Chu Xiaotu felt better after being praised by Su Weifeng and became proud again. Xiaotu, you two are almost done. I'm still here. Mo Fei said coldly on the side. She was joking at the time. She was getting more and more familiar with everyone. In fact, she was only cold on the outside. Boss, what should we do with this killer? Mo Fei frowned and said to Su Weifeng. Seeing that Su Weifeng did not ask her how the killer died, she was happy with it. She also knew that the boss was not an ordinary person and would not let this killer go. I will deal with this killer. Thank you for your hard work. Go back and have a rest. The bar is closed for one day today. You all should have a good rest, Su Weifeng said. After Mo Fei left, Su Weifeng called Xiang Yi. Mr. Su, I have found the mistress of the broker, but her mistress said that she was knocked unconscious and didn't know where Donald went. But I will let my men continue to track him down, Xiang Yi said seriously on the phone. In fact, he already had a guess, but he didn't dare to say it. Don't look for Donald. I have rescued my girlfriend, Su Weifeng said calmly, and then thanked Xiang Yi again. After all, if there was no news from him, he would not know where Donald was. When he found him, it would be too late. Xiang Yi immediately knew that his guess was right. Mr. Su solved the matter himself, and the broker might never come back. At the same time, he also admired Mr. Su's methods. The killer and the broker were not allowed to betray their employers. Even so, Mr. Su was able to rescue the person. Xiang Yi thought it would be difficult for him to do it. Su Weifeng asked Xiang Yi to send someone to deal with the body of the female killer. This was a piece of cake for Xiang Yi. He quickly sent someone to put the female killer away in a box. The people who came had a cold expression and turned a blind eye to everything else. They carried the body away, showing a very professional quality. After Chu Xiaotu fell asleep, Su Weifeng came to the living room and lay on the sofa, lost in thought. This was just a girl, Chu Xiaotu. He almost had no one to protect her. He had so many girlfriends. If something happened, it would be too late for him to regret it. Besides, there were also his parents, who all needed to be protected. Suddenly, Su Weifeng thought of a person, a bodyguard. Now that he has money, he can hire a bodyguard. Even when he is not around, he can guarantee their safety to the greatest extent. However, it is difficult to determine the right person. Su Weifeng does not trust those bodyguard companies. Now he can only rely on his luck. Thinking of this, Su Weifeng called Xiang Yi and asked about the bodyguard. Xiang Yi immediately understood what was going on. Mr. Su is a powerful warrior and naturally does not need a bodyguard, but the people around him are not. They are just ordinary people. If they encounter enemies seeking revenge, it will be troublesome. Xiang Yi originally wanted to arrange people to be bodyguards for Su Weifeng's girlfriend, but after thinking about it, he decided not to do it. The strongest of his men is only Hao. Now that he knows that there are powerful inner force warriors in this world, he also feels the weakness of his men. Now he has no confidence that he can protect Mr. Su's girlfriend with his men. If he fails to protect her well and offends Mr. Su, it will be more trouble than gain. Through Xiang Yi's introduction, Su Weifeng knew that most of Galen's bodyguard companies were in the South District, which was also the territory of mercenaries. It was a very chaotic place with all kinds of people. He told him to bring more people with him if he went there, and Xiang Yi could send someone when he went there. After hanging up the phone, Su Weifeng made a plan to go to the South District tomorrow to see if he could hire a suitable bodyguard. Xiaotu was still very scared after just coming back today, so he didn't go out yet and stayed with her in the room. The next morning, Chu Xiaotu drove Su Weifeng to the South District. Originally, Su Weifeng didn't want to bring Chu Xiaotu, but Chu Xiaotu insisted on following him. He thought that there was nothing to do with him around, and this time he went to choose a bodyguard for Chu Xiaotu, so that she could go and see for herself. However, he didn't tell her that he was looking for a bodyguard for her, otherwise Xiaotu would definitely not agree. Husband, are you going to choose security for the bar? With security, who dares to make trouble in our bar? Haha. Chu Xiaotu was very excited along the way, as if she was going shopping. Not security guards, but bodyguards. Su Weifeng repeated speechlessly. Ah, I see. They are the guys who look after the place next door, aren't they gangsters? Chu Xiaotu suddenly understood again, and said in confusion. They are security guards, the security guards who protect the bar. Su Weifeng said helplessly. How come he and Tiger are almost on the same level? Both have little brothers who look after the place. Just thinking about it makes him frown. Haha, I guess I'm right, and you're still lying to me. Chu Xiaotu smiled proudly. Su Weifeng could only shake his head and smile bitterly, but he really liked to see Chu Xiaotu's cute look. Now Chu Xiaotu's driving skills have obviously improved. After knowing that Su Weifeng is so rich, he no longer worries about not being able to repair the car. The two of them soon came to the South District. When they first arrived here, Su Weifeng didn't feel any difference from the Chinatown in the East District. Except that there was no Chinese, and the shops everywhere were all in English, and there were foreigners everywhere. There was nothing special about the rest. It didn't feel as chaotic as Xiang Yu said. The South District is no different, right? Have you been to the South District before? Su Weifeng asked Chu Xiaotu curiously. He knew that Chu Xiaotu had studied here for several years, so she should know something about it. I heard that the South District is more chaotic at night. At night, it is the territory of mercenaries, and fighting and killing are common. But it's okay during the day. I haven't been here. Is it really that chaotic here? Chu Xiaotu had only heard about it and didn't know. Chapter 918 Desert Eagle. Honey, look over there. Chu Xiaotu suddenly pointed to a sign on the roadside and said. Su Weifeng looked over. It was Desert Eagle Security. There was a huge white pistol printed on the sign. If you didn't speak English well, you would think it was a gun store. Let's go and take a look. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Well, it looks like it's very powerful from the name. Chu Xiaotu said excitedly. As soon as he entered the door, Su Weifeng saw a white-skinned woman sitting behind the bar. When she saw Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu come in, she immediately stood up and greeted them with a smile. Welcome, sir and madam. Are you Chinese? The woman said with a smile. Do you speak Chinese well? Chu Xiaotu said with a smile. Thank you, just a little bit. The woman said modestly. Sir, madam, is there anything I can do for you? The woman continued to ask. Can you hire security guards here? Chu Xiaotu said first. Su Weifeng was very upset. How could he hire security guards? Excuse me, ma'am, we can only hire bodyguards here. Of course if you want to deal with someone. The woman didn't finish her words, but Su Weifeng already understood. It was really unexpected that this company could hire killers. We just want bodyguards. She was just joking. Su Weifeng said with a smile. What level of bodyguards do you need to hire, sir? The woman's eyes lit up when she saw that they wanted to hire bodyguards. This was money. Of course it has to be top notch. Su Weifeng said directly. Sir, we need our boss to introduce you to the top-notch bodyguards. Please follow me. The woman was more respectful when she saw the big customer, and she led the way enthusiastically. On the second floor, the woman took Su Weifeng and the others into a luxurious office. A very fat white man was sitting in a boss chair, enjoying the massage of the female secretary, with a look of enjoyment on his face. Boss, a guest is here. The woman at the front desk knocked on the door gently and said. The fat man stood up. This man was at least 300 pounds, white and fat, and his head was also very big, like a big pig head. Chu Xiaotu tried hard not to laugh. She looked like a pig standing up. After letting the female secretary and the receptionist go out, the fat boss motioned Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu to sit down. Are you Asian? The fat boss said arrogantly. Why don't you do business with Asians? Su Weifeng was also a little unhappy. Of course not, but our company doesn't have so many low-level security guards. They are all masters among masters, and the price is indeed very expensive. The fat boss looked at Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu. When he looked at Su Weifeng, his eyes were full of contempt, as if he couldn't afford to hire him. But when he looked at Chu Xiaotu, his eyes lit up, and stared at Chu Xiaotu with green light in his eyes. Chu Xiaotu frowned when she was looked at. This was a naked pervert. Before she could get angry, the fat boss's eyes returned to normal. Our security company's clients are all wealthy people. Even the lowest level 1-star bodyguards are retired special forces and have been on the battlefield and killed people. The fee is $1 million a month. If it's less than a month, it will be calculated as a month. The fat boss said proudly. This boss really looked down on Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu. They were just young people, dressed very ordinary, and did not have the kind of arrogant aura of family children. How could such a person afford to hire a bodyguard? He was just looking around on impulse. After hearing the offer, Su Weifeng didn't think much of it, but Chu Xiaotu took a breath of cold air. This is $1 million a month, which is much more than the salary of all the bar employees added together. The bar's monthly turnover is not so much money. This security guard is too valuable. I can't afford it. What is the highest star? Su Weifeng asked casually without blinking. I didn't realize that the sir is still a rich man, the fat boss said with a smile, but his tone was full of sarcasm. He still didn't believe that the young man could afford to hire a bodyguard. Our highest price is 5-star bodyguards. Their price is $1 million more per month for each additional star. A 5-star bodyguard is $5 million per month. The fat boss introduced loudly, with a smile on his face, feeling proud. Chu Xiaotu's eyes widened when she heard the price. Isn't this robbery? It's $60 million a year, several hundred million yuan. What kind of bodyguard is this? Protecting the president shouldn't be so expensive. Chu Xiaotu was dissatisfied and felt that the boss was deliberately scaring them. The price is not much. Let me take a look at your 5-star bodyguard first. If you are satisfied, I will give you $6 million a month. Su Weifeng said calmly. The fat boss was shocked. Did he really make a mistake? This young couple is really rich, otherwise why would they raise the price on their own initiative? However, the famous second generations of the gallon also know something, especially the Chinese. There are only a few families, but obviously there are no such two people. But at this point, the fat boss couldn't drive the sponsors away. For the time being, he would just treat them as sponsors. If he found out that they couldn't afford it and were playing tricks on him, he would have to pay the price. Thinking of this, the fat boss looked at Chu Xiaotu again. The fat boss took out his phone and said a few words, then hung up. Sir, wait a minute. We still have 3 5-star bodyguards here, and they will be here soon. You will definitely be satisfied. As long as you have any one of them, you can walk sideways in this gallon in the future. I guarantee that, no matter how unhappy they are, they will have no way to deal with you. Ha 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 ha. The fat boss said proudly. He was very confident in his bodyguards, especially the 5-star bodyguards, each of whom was a top-level strongman. I hope so. Su Weifeng smiled lightly. After a while, footsteps were heard outside, and 3 men walked in one after another. The first man was a tall white man, about 1.9 meters tall, with bulging muscles, but not the big guy in the gym. He was wearing desert camouflage and Black Hawk combat boots. He looked at Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu with sharp eyes. He was a typical American soldier, and he looked very strong. This is Hus, a former special operations member of the United States. He was the captain of the squad and participated in the counterattack, decapitation operation, etc. He is a battle-hardened soldier. If he hadn't disobeyed orders on the battlefield, he might have been a general now. With Mr. Hus in this battle, no one would dare to attack you. The fat man introduced with a smile, obviously admiring this American soldier very much. As for what level he was, Su Weifeng didn't care at all, and Su Weifeng didn't feel cold to this American soldier. It wasn't that he was hostile to this man, because of his identity, but the body of this bodyguard was too obvious. He stood there, as if he was afraid that people would not know that he was a bodyguard. Moreover, Su Weifeng was planning to choose a suitable person to bring back to China. A white-skinned person would be too conspicuous if he returned to China. Su Weifeng's ideal bodyguard was the kind that could not be found in a crowd, but was strong. What he wanted was secret protection, not the kind of bodyguard who followed him around all the time. Of course, it would be best if the person was Chinese. Chapter 919 Dissatisfied. Su Weifeng shook his head subconsciously when he thought of this, obviously dissatisfied. Boy, do you look down on me? The American soldier was angry when he saw Su Weifeng's reaction. He called himself the strongest bodyguard and the strongest warrior. How could someone dare to question him? And it was this small Asian man. How could he not be angry? He almost wanted to knock this boy down. The fat boss laughed in his heart. Kid, let's see how you choose. If you don't choose anyone, haha, this monk will be the first to beat you into mud. Is there anything worthy of my respect? Su Weifeng sneered at Zeus. You dare to provoke me? Zeus said. His hand passed over his waist, and a huge desert eagle was pointed at his head like lightning. The fat boss did not stop him, but smiled and watched. He wanted to see how long this young man could pretend, and whether he would pee his pants, when the Desert Eagle pointed at his head. "What are you doing?" Qiao said anxiously. She knew her husband was powerful, but this was not a martial arts competition, but a pistol pointed at his head. "What do you think, kid? Do you think I dare to shoot?" Xiuc looked at Su Weifeng with a playful look on his face. Desert Eagle is a product of a Mi company, with a conventional caliber of 9.11 mm, a capacity of 7 rounds, and an effective range of 200 meters. Su Weifeng said calmly, as if he was reciting. "Boy, you know a lot. Then you also know the power of this Desert Eagle. It will explode with a bang when it hits your head," Xiuc said deliberately. He was not too surprised that Su Weifeng knew so much about this pistol. Desert Eagle is also a famous gun. Many rich people will collect it. There is also a gold version. It is nothing for these young people to be familiar with its information. Sir, Mr. Xiuc is the most powerful warrior. If you don't recognize him, he will be angry. I can't do anything about it. The fat boss pretended to be kind and reminded him, but the smile in his eyes was particularly obvious. "You are threatening us. I'm going to call the police," Qiao said angrily. "Haha, beautiful girl, if you want to report it, just do it. It's okay. If the police are useful here, why do we need bodyguards?" The fat boss said with a disdainful expression and a mocking smile. You. Qiao was so angry that she took out the electric baton and wanted to step forward. "Xiao is fine. He doesn't dare to shoot." Su Weifeng held Qiao and said with a smile. Qiao was relieved when she heard Su Weifeng say that. She knew that if her husband said it was okay, it must be okay. She put her arm down, but still held the electric baton tightly in her hand. The Desert Eagle was originally designed for hunting. It has a large caliber and a long range. It can cause great damage to prey and is suitable for shooting large animals. However, its disadvantages are also obvious. The recoil is very large. It is not suitable for continuous shooting at all. It is only suitable for playing around. You carry this kind of pistol with you as a bodyguard. I doubt your professionalism. You can only scare people. Su Weifeng sneered and directly pointed out the shortcomings of the Desert Eagle. This surprised Xiuc and made him look a little embarrassed because he knew that what the man said was right. He dared not use this kind of pistol on the battlefield. Now it is really for fun and to scare people. And you didn't even turn on the safety. This kind of combat quality really makes me worry. Do you think I will be satisfied with you? Su Weifeng shook his head and sighed. Impossible. How could I not turn on the safety? Xiuc questioned immediately, and at the same time, picked up the pistol and looked at it. The safety was indeed on. At this moment, he felt a gust of wind sweeping over, and then his hand was cold. He knew that it was broken, and he was fooled. At this time, Su Weifeng had pointed the Desert Eagle at his head. Xiuc was so embarrassed that he was disarmed by a small Asian man because of his carelessness. He couldn't accept it, and his face turned pale. "Sir, I was wrong. He is a master," the fat boss said in surprise. He was also shocked just now. He didn't expect that the young man would be so fast, but he didn't think that the young man could be Xiuc's opponent. He was just being clever. If it was a life and death fight, Xiuc would definitely kill him in the first place. The other two bodyguards didn't even look at Xiuc and Su Weifeng. The two bodyguards didn't have any interest in Xiuc. They were all martial arts masters and didn't like this big American soldier. When they saw that Su Weifeng could disarm the soldier's pistol, they just took a second look and didn't think anything of it. Su Weifeng turned off the safety of the Desert Eagle and threw it back to Hus. Hus took back his pistol and retreated in dismay. He did not get angry again. He also knew that he could show them some power here, but he could not really kill him, otherwise it would affect the company. If something happened, the boss of the company would not let him go. Su Weifeng looked at the other two bodyguards. One was a Chinese man wearing a white training suit and had a long breath. The other was also an Asian man wearing an eye mask and a samurai sword on his waist with a cold look. This is a Chinese Kung Fu master, Master Jia. He is very good at Chinese Kung Fu. He once competed with the former bodyguard of the president of country K and ended in a draw. This is a presidential level bodyguard, the fat boss said proudly. He was also very satisfied with Master Jaya. After all, he was at the same level as the president's bodyguard. This is Mr. Shianjiro, a kendo master who practices the mind-eye swordsmanship. He is very sensitive to danger and has been hit by a bullet with a knife. The fat boss introduced the third bodyguard. Su Weifeng was also looking at the two men as the fat boss introduced them. Regardless of their martial arts skills, these two men had one thing in common, which was that they were too detached. They gave people a feeling of being detached from the world. Such people would be recognized at a glance when standing in a crowd. Such people were not what he wanted. Are there any others? These are not suitable. Su Weifeng shook his head and sighed. Hearing Su Weifeng's words, the fat boss laughed. The boy was still pretending. He had already guessed that you would say that. Boy, are you kidding me? These are all 5-star bodyguards. It's not easy to see one of them at ordinary times. Do you think you are looking for women in KTV? Just say you are not satisfied and it's over. The fat boss said viciously. Then what do you want? Su Weifeng looked at him coldly, his eyes full of disdain. I'll give you 2 ways. Either you choose one, pay the money, and forget it. The fat boss said meaningfully. Then what is the second one? Su Weifeng cooperated very well and asked with a smile. The second one is also for your own good, so that you know how dangerous this world is without bodyguards. For example, you can't even protect your girlfriend and can only watch her. Ha 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 ha. Do you understand? The fat boss laughed wildly. Chapter 920, the third choice. Okay, then I choose the third one. Su Weifeng said coldly, his eyes gradually showing coldness. What is the third one? The fat boss asked in confusion. I'll let you know that, even if there are 3 5-star bodyguards, they still can't protect you. Su Weifeng's voice was filled with murderous intent. The fat boss didn't react for a moment. He was threatened in front of 3 top bodyguards. I'm going to kill you. The American soldier took out the Desert Eagle and said with a grin. He sneered in his heart and prepared to shoot him in the head to wash away the shame just now. Master Jaya and Shianjiro also looked Su Weifeng in the face for the first time. How could they allow him to do something to the boss? If something happened to the boss at this time, wouldn't it make them look too incompetent? Work is a small matter, but face is a big matter. Su Weifeng grabbed Qiaoyu's wrist holding the gun and swung it to the side. The 1.9 meter tall American soldier smashed against the wall. The pistol had already been thrown out. His face was blood red and there were stars in front of his eyes. He shook his head hard and felt a little more awake. The American soldier just woke up a little, but before he could stand up, Qiao came out. The electric baton with a blue arc stabbed Qiaoyu's face fiercely. The skin on his face smelled burnt under the strong current. Qiao fell down without even a hum, and his body twitched from time to time. Kill him, kill him. The fat boss realized that this couple was not here to hire bodyguards, but to cause trouble. Qiao was so easily knocked down, and he became a little uneasy. Facing Shianjiro and Master Jaya, Su Weifeng approached them directly, used his true energy, and slapped each of them. Master Jaya was lucky. He retreated 5 or 6 steps before he stabilized his body. The blood and ki in his body were churning, and his internal organs were shaken. Shianjiro flew out directly, spitting blood, and couldn't stand up for a while. The samurai sword that was more important than his life and never left his body was thrown aside. Warrior, yellow level warrior, Master Jaya said with fear on his face. He was also a descendant of internal boxing, but his internal force had just started, and he was also the last among the yellow level warriors. When the young man hit him, he could clearly feel a huge force gushing out from the opponent's palm and directly poured into his body. If it weren't for his internal force to block it in time, he would have spit blood and fallen to the ground. You have some knowledge, and you know about yellow level warriors. Su Weifeng looked at Master Jaya with amusement. You are so young and have such a high level of internal force. I surrender. I have lived in vain all these years. Master Jaya cried. Su Weifeng did not make things difficult for Master Jaya. After all, he was a Chinese and did not do anything to him. However, he could not let the fat boss go. After the kidnapping of Xiao, He was most afraid that Xiao would get into trouble. Now this fat guy dared to take advantage of Xiao. Sir, I was wrong. You are a master. I really don't have anyone you like. I just didn't recognize the real one. The fat boss said in horror. He knew the strength of his 3 bodyguards best. Any one of them was enough to deal with the assassin's attack. But all 3 of them were no match for the young man. They slapped each of them away. It was like hitting a fly. How could he afford to offend such a person? If you dare to take advantage of Xiao, there is only one outcome, death. Su Weifeng said, and his finger was like a knife, piercing the fat boss's chest and piercing his heart. The fat boss looked at Su Weifeng in disbelief. He couldn't believe that he dared to kill him. Moreover, it was not a knife that stabbed his chest, but his hand. It was not until Su Weifeng pulled out his hand that the fat boss fell down. He couldn't believe it until he lost consciousness. Husband, you killed him. Chu Xiao said in horror. Qiao fell to the ground and looked at Su Weifeng in horror. He couldn't believe that this young man dared to kill the boss in the company. The boss had a background. Otherwise how could he open such a big bodyguard company? Is this young man not afraid? Or is he ignorant of life and death? You guys go quickly. It's too late to leave. Master Jia reminded in a low voice. He was also a Chinese and a yellow level master, which made him admire him very much. It doesn't matter. No one can do anything to me yet. Su Weifeng said domineeringly. Husband, let's go. This is not the East District, not our place. Chu Xiao pulled Su Weifeng and was also a little anxious. Don't worry, anyone who dares to attack Xiao will be killed without mercy. Believe me, I'll be fine. Su Weifeng squeezed Chu Xiao's hand and said with a smile. Su Weifeng took Chu Xiao's hand and walked out of the Shang security company leisurely. The woman at the front desk didn't know what happened upstairs, let alone that the boss had been killed. She smiled and greeted Su Weifeng and the others. Su Weifeng didn't get in the car, but led Chu Xiao to stroll slowly on the street, as if taking a walk, walking aimlessly. It was still early, some shops were not open yet, and there were not many pedestrians on the street. Su Weifeng and Chu Xiao, to Chinese people, were particularly conspicuous. Husband, where are we going? Chu Xiao said a little uneasily. She knew that the people Su Weifeng killed were not good people, and these people would never give up, and would definitely come to retaliate. Don't be afraid of any scene you see later. Just know that nothing will happen, as long as you know that I'm here. Su Weifeng said with a smile. After hearing what Su Weifeng said, Chu Xiao became even more uneasy. Was he going to make a big scene here? This is not Chinatown. If my husband knew Mr. Xiang in Chinatown, he could get help from someone. But here are all foreigners. If something happens, we can't find anyone. What should I do? Chu Xiao was flustered. She regretted it now. If she hadn't followed him, he might not have killed the boss. But she felt sweet and happy when she thought of it. Suddenly, the sound of sirens came from a distance. It was very harsh on this quiet street. The sound immediately attracted the attention of Chu Xiao and Su Weifeng. The police are here. Husband, run quickly. Chu Xiao pushed Su Weifeng hard. She knew that Su Weifeng killed someone in public. There were several eyewitnesses. If he was arrested, he would never get out. Even if he found a lawyer, it would be difficult to prove his innocence. The case was too clear. This was different from the Snake Island. The police arrived first. Su Weifeng couldn't help but laugh. Obviously, he was a little surprised. He thought it would be the fat boss's people who arrived first. Stop, don't move. 2 policemen ran down from the police car, vigilantly pointing guns at Su Weifeng. They were patrolling nearby and rushed over after receiving a call that someone had been killed. Chapter 921 Medusa Mercenary Group. Su Weifeng stood there, smiling at the 2 policemen. He knew that the policemen would not arrest him. At this time, dozens of sturdy men came from both sides of the street and rushed towards Su Weifeng. The 2 policemen were also frightened by this scene. They didn't know whether these people were in the same group as the young man or his enemies. Who are you, and what do you want to do? One of the policemen said bravely. This kid killed the boss of Desert Eagle. Who do you think we are? The leading sturdy man asked back. This sturdy man was a black man. His muscles bulged like steel. He wore a black vest and looked like a small chimpanzee. His body was full of explosive power. "Are you Medusa's King Kong?" one of the policemen suddenly remembered and said in a trembling voice. "You still have some knowledge. What are you going to do?" The black man sneered. "Someone called the police. Let's take a look at the situation. It seems that there is nothing wrong now. Then we will leave first." After a policeman finished speaking, he hurriedly pulled his companion, got into the car and left. In the police car, 2 policemen were still in shock, looking back through the rearview mirror. "That guy is finished. That's Medusa's man. I wouldn't have come if I had known this would happen. The person who called the police didn't tell us clearly who was killed and almost killed us," a policeman said angrily. "Yes, Medusa is a group of very cruel mercenaries, and the security company is run by them. How can someone who killed them survive?" Another policeman also said. "Do we really not care? Will they say we are derelict in our duty? You are not new to the South District. This is the territory of mercenaries. These guys kill people without blinking an eye. Our police in the South District are just to scare ordinary people. Who dares to care about these mercenaries unless the army is dispatched?" "You killed the fat pig," said the black man. "I killed him. Is there a problem?" Su Weifeng looked at him with a smile and said casually. Su Weifeng looked at the black man. He just heard the police say that his name was King Kong. He did look a bit like a gorilla, but he was far inferior to the King Kong of the McAllen family. The King Kong of the McAllen family could flatten him with one punch. Moreover, he had never even heard of this Medusa mercenary group. It was probably not a big mercenary group. At this time, the bodyguards of the Desert Eagle Security Company also came here. Chai-Jiro, Master Jaya, and Xiuc all came to the front. They were the strongest bodyguards of the Desert Eagle, but compared with these mercenaries, they were obviously less murderous. This was the breath that could only be contaminated in the bloody storm. Master Jaya frowned and looked at Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu with some regret. He couldn't bear to see his compatriots die here. "Boy, can't you fight? Today I'll see how you can get out alive." Xiuc still had gauze wrapped around his face and shouted cruelly. He wanted to kill this boy now. "You are quite tough, a man, but do you really think that our Medusa is a decoration?" The Black King Kong shouted loudly. "What is Medusa? I've never heard of her." Su Weifeng said disdainfully. "Well, it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of her. How can you ordinary people know the name of our Medusa? You just need to know that you died at the hands of Medusa. Kill him." Black King Kong shouted loudly. Hearing his order, the mercenaries took out their weapons one after another. There were pistols and rifles, and some were holding tactical daggers, ready to start killing. Chu Xiaotu looked at these people nervously, her heart beating violently. Today was different from the past. Although there were many enemies before, they were all ordinary thugs. Today, they were mercenaries with real guns. These war dogs were definitely more brutal than ordinary soldiers. Just when the mercenaries were about to open fire, Su Weifeng took out a gold medal and threw it directly to Black King Kong. "Do you recognize this?" Su Weifeng sneered. The mercenaries didn't understand. "Is this buying life with gold? Boy, are you stupid? You want to buy your life with just this little bit of gold? Now it's useless, even if you take out the gold bars. Anyone who kills Medusa must die." Zeus shouted loudly. When he was a soldier, he disdained these mercenaries, but now he knows how powerful these mercenary groups are. Now he has to seek the protection of the mercenary groups, otherwise his enemies would have come to kill him long ago. "Wait." Zeus took the gold medal and suddenly raised his hand to stop his people. "What's wrong with King Kong?" Zeus asked strangely, standing beside King Kong. King Kong had a strange expression and a dazed look, as if he was frightened by something. King Kong handed the gold medal to Zeus, and at the same time, looked at Su Weifeng with some fear. "What is this? It's not heavy. Is it an antique?" Zeus weighed the gold medal, and said in confusion. "Take a look." King Kong said. "What is this word? And there is a sword in the middle." Zeus said in confusion. "Fengan? What is this?" Master Jaya read out the handwriting on the gold medal. The other mercenaries didn't react at first, and they didn't recognize the words on the token. But after Master Jaya read it out, all the mercenaries looked at Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu in shock, and their eyes were full of disbelief and fear. "What's wrong with you?" Zeus frowned and had a bad premonition in his heart. King Kong handed the gold medal to Su Weifeng respectfully. Is this still King Kong? When did King Kong become so polite? He had never been so polite to his teammates. Did he take the wrong medicine today? Zeus looked at King Kong as if he had seen a ghost. Master Jaya and other bodyguards also looked at their boss in the same way. The Medusa mercenary group was their real boss. The fat man was just a member of Medusa, nicknamed Fat Pig, who was responsible for logistics. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know you were Feng Gan's friend. Please forgive me for the offense. King Kong bowed fiercely, bending his body to 90 degrees. The mercenaries also bowed together and learned from King Kong. Qiao covered his mouth and looked at this scene in disbelief. It looked like a gangster encountering a big boss. But this wasn't the gang, it was mercenaries, a famous mercenary territory in the south. How could Su Weifeng have such a high status here? Zeus also opened his mouth, so wide that he could swallow an egg. He thought that a very ordinary Asian little guy. How could he have such great power? These mercenaries had no taboos. Even the son of Mayor Jailan didn't look down on him when he came here. Why were they so polite to this kid? And more of them were afraid. Yes, they were afraid. Am I dazzled? Aren't you going to seek revenge on me? Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. Su Weifeng said with a smile. No, it's all the fault of that dead fat pig. I'm really sorry for offending you, sir. King Kong bent over and said respectfully, with sweat on his face. Since everything is fine, I'm leaving. Su Weifeng said. Sir, take care. King Kong said hurriedly, just wanting this man to leave quickly. Chapter 922 Feng Gan's Prestige. Qiao drove the car directly out of the south and headed towards the hotel. His hands and feet were still numb, as if they were not his own. He met the two policemen on the road, and Su Weifeng waved at them. The two policemen looked at the young couple in surprise as they drove away, and they were all stunned. Seeing that Su Weifeng and his car had gone far away, King Kong and others straightened up, their bodies covered in cold sweat, and looked at the direction where Su Weifeng left with lingering fear. Boss King Kong, what's wrong with you? Who is that guy? Does he have any background? I can't tell anything from the brand. Zeus looked at King Kong with a puzzled look. It's normal that you don't know. You're not a mercenary. That gold medal is also called the Death-Free Gold Medal, which was issued by the Feng Gan mercenary group, which ranks among the top 3 in our mercenary world. This kind of gold medal is rare, but it means a lot. Anyone who sees this token is not allowed to be an enemy of the holder of the token, otherwise he will be regarded as an enemy of Feng Gan, and he will be killed, no matter where he escapes to. Is the Feng Gan mercenary group very powerful? Zeus asked doubtfully. The Medusa mercenary group is also a large mercenary group with very strong strength. They are also mercenaries, so why are they afraid of this? Because of a token? More than powerful, there are tens of thousands of mercenary groups in the world now, and only the top 100 can enter the ranking, and the top 3 in this ranking are even more godlike mercenary groups. If you anger them, they don't even need to do anything. Just a random word will make the mercenary groups in the world attack them, just to make friends with them. King Kong sighed, these top 3 mercenary groups are the idols of all mercenaries. The top 3 among thousands of mercenary groups. Then where does our Medusa rank? Qiao finally knew what this Feng Gan represented, and asked curiously. He thought that his own Medusa mercenary group should not be too far behind. Master Jaya and Jiro also looked at King Kong with curiosity, wanting to know how their organization could rank. King Kong was a little embarrassed, but he still said it with a stiff upper lip. Our mercenary group is still a little short of the ranking list. King Kong said embarrassedly. Not only him, but the other mercenaries were also a little embarrassed. They usually thought that their mercenary group was the strongest, and they were not afraid of the police. But compared with the top 3 strongest mercenary groups, they were not even scum. King Kong was still euphemistic. In fact, if they were ranked according to the ranking, their Medusa would be close to the 1000th place, which was indeed a little short of the top 100, but this was a little too much. Qiao was petrified instantly. He had always thought that his mercenary group was very strong, but he didn't expect that it would be ranked outside the top 100 and couldn't even enter the ranking list. Now he felt Feng Yun's fear even more deeply. The people that Feng Yun wanted to protect were really not worthy of the Medusa. They couldn't afford to provoke them. Master Jia was also stunned. He didn't expect that his compatriots had such a strong background. He was proud and a little sad at the same time. He was really envious and jealous of such a young yellow level warrior with such a strong background. Husband, why do they seem to be afraid of you? Is there anything special about this gold medal? Chu Xiaotu asked curiously. They are not afraid of me, but of this gold medal. Su Weifeng said with a smile. This gold medal itself is nothing, but it represents a very powerful mercenary group. Feng Yun, this gold medal will belong to you in the future. With it, if the mercenary group troubles you again, you can just show it directly. Su Weifeng touched Chu Xiaotu's head and said, I don't want it. You should keep it. You are so troublesome. It will be safer with it. Chu Xiaotu shook her head and said. Su Weifeng was speechless. Why did Chu Xiaotu think he was the one who could cause trouble? Under Su Weifeng's strong request, Chu Xiaotu finally agreed to accept it. This gold medal was very small and could be worn as a pendant. Time passed day by day. These days were very peaceful and nothing happened. Su Weifeng was once addicted to this quiet and comfortable environment. However, there was no sign of the mission, and Su Weifeng was very anxious. He had been in Galan for almost 2 months. Whether through Xiang Yi or Ajax, he had not found any news about the researcher. He only had a record of entry, but no record of exit. That meant that he was either still in Country K, or had been killed. But this Country K was so big, how could he find him? Su Weifeng was overwhelmed when he thought of this. He had been out for 2 months, and he didn't know how Lin Zhuangxuan and the others were doing. Others didn't know that Su Weifeng was here to do a mission this time, but Lin Zhuangxuan knew it. The girl must be worried to death. Thinking of this, Su Weifeng picked up the phone and wanted to call Lin Zhuangxuan, but he was worried about his identity being exposed. He sat on the sofa in the hotel and struggled for several hours. Finally, Su Weifeng pressed the dial button and comforted himself that he was not involved in any investigation and there was nothing to expose. Moreover, this was a specially made encrypted phone, so he thought nothing would happen. Hello, is this Brother Su? A girl's nervous and excited voice came from the other end of the phone. Zhuangxuan, it's me. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Brother Su, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. Lin Zhuangxuan started crying. Su Weifeng had been away for so long and there was no news at all. She had been worried about whether Su Weifeng would get into trouble. Today, she finally got his call. Zhuangxuan, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I missed you so much that I called you. Su Weifeng saw Lin Zhuangxuan crying so sadly, and he felt very uncomfortable. He owed her too much. Brother Su, I miss you too. We all miss you. Where are you now? Lin Zhuangxuan asked tentatively. She didn't know whether Su Weifeng was still on the mission or had finished it. I can't go back for the time being. It will take some time. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's safe this time, but it will take longer. Su Weifeng thought for a while and said. Lin Zhuangxuan understood immediately that Su Weifeng had not completed the mission and was still in progress. The mission should be a bit troublesome and will take a long time. Although she felt a little sad knowing that it would take a long time, she felt relieved knowing that Su Weifeng was fine and safe. As long as he was fine, it was the best thing. Is everything okay at home recently? Su Weifeng asked again worriedly. Home, it's very good. Everything is fine. Lin Zhuangxuan said in a somewhat unnatural tone. Zhuangxuan, tell me the truth. Is there something wrong at home? Su Weifeng immediately heard that Lin Zhuangxuan was not telling the truth, and something really happened. It's really nothing. You think too much. Lin Zhuangxuan said with a deliberate smile. Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan were too familiar with each other and knew that this girl would not lie, so her tone was too unnatural. Chapter 923 New Enemy. At Su Weifeng's strong request, Lin Zhuangxuan finally told the truth. More than a month after Su Weifeng left, a new film and television company was established in Yangcheng. It was unknown what the background of this company was. As soon as it was established, it received many large orders, and it was smooth sailing both for public and private purposes, as if someone was protecting it behind the scenes. Moreover, this company was very strange, as if it appeared in Yangcheng overnight, without any development process at all, as if it had always existed there, and the business of this company was very similar to Dream Film and Television. Since its establishment, it has suppressed Dream Film and Television everywhere. In just 1 month, Dream Film and Television had no work to take, and the employees were also panicked. If the company had not been so good to them, the benefits had always been good, and gold bars were issued, I'm afraid that someone would have jumped ship long ago. Even so, the employees were not confident in their hearts, and they did not know whether the company could still hold on. Although they knew that the boss had money, could afford to lose money, and could afford to invest funds, the company that lost money would sooner or later be abandoned by the boss. They knew that the boss's company was not just this one. Lin Zhuangxuan also went to Xu Lingling. Although Xu Lingling tried her best to investigate, she still couldn't find any clues. The investigation was blocked everywhere, as if someone was stopping her investigation. Zhu Zhuangxuan wanted to help after hearing about it, but was warned and almost assassinated. The Zhu family was very angry and tried their best to track down the mastermind behind it, but they still knew nothing at present. It seemed that all the insiders had been ordered to keep silent. Su Weifeng could already feel the seriousness of the matter from Lin Zhuangxuan's narration. This was obviously being targeted. It seemed that it was aimed at him, but he was not in the country, and it seemed that those women were not enough to deal with it. But where did this enemy come from? Su Weifeng had no idea for a while. If it was just a business competition, it would be fine. Dream Film and Television was originally a company that Lin Zhuangxuan, and he started for fun. At most, they could just disband it. But the enemy's strength was obviously not just a business matter. The Xu family was now the largest family in Yangcheng. If they wanted to investigate something, they would not be able to find out. There were only two possibilities. Either the Xu family did not make any effort and joined forces with the enemy. However, this possibility was directly ruled out. Xu Lingling liked him so much that she had been pursuing him. Now that she was his girlfriend, it was even more impossible for her to betray him. Moreover, the current head of the Xu family was Xu Lingling, so the Xu family's investigation could not be fake. There was only one possibility. This unknown enemy was very powerful and far beyond the Xu family's ability to contend with. Therefore, the Xu family's investigation was stopped, and Zhu Zhuangxuan was assassinated just to stop her from helping Dream Film and Television. The person who came was probably not simple. He was not after Dream Film and Television, but himself. It was very likely that everything was done to force himself out. But which side was it? Su Weifeng's head was almost exploding, but he could not figure out a direction. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that he had too many enemies. Su Weifeng became more and more anxious. Since Zhu Zhuangxuan could be assassinated, it was possible that the enemy would attack his other girlfriends. Zhu Zhuangxuan still had the family's bodyguards to protect her secretly, but no one could protect Lin Zhuangxuan, Sun Yumeng, Zhao Xiaoshu and other girls. Although he arranged Pei Yi was just an ordinary person. It was no problem to deal with some gangsters, but there was no room for fighting back against professional killers. I'm afraid I have to go back. Su Weifeng thought about it and decided to go back. After all, he had already designed the safety of the people around him. Su Weifeng called the army and told him about the current situation of the investigation in Jialan and said that something happened at home. The army leader readily agreed to Su Weifeng's request. If there was something, he could go home to do it and then continue the investigation after it was done. Because other departments had also come to investigate the scientific researcher, they all returned without success, so they handed it over to the army, and they didn't hold much hope. The army leader had already thought about it. If there was still no news, after investigating for a while, he would let Su Weifeng come back and hand over the task. Many of these missing persons cannot be found for 10 or 20 years, let alone looking for such a person in a foreign country. There are no clues and no records. This is not much easier than finding a needle in a haystack. The army can't spend too much time on such a task like Su Weifeng. It would be more trouble than gain. Su Weifeng was relieved after the leader approved it. If he didn't approve it, he really couldn't leave. After all, national affairs are more important. He booked a flight for the next day that night. Yang Cheng will wait for me to come back. Chu Zio2 came back from get off work at night and lay on the bed with Chu Zio2. Zio2, I have something to do in China and need to go back. Su Weifeng said to Chu Zio2. Husband, then I will go back with you. Chu Zio2 hugged Su Weifeng's arm and said expectantly. Zio2, be obedient. Something happened at home. I will be back soon after the problem is solved. You will start school soon, so go to school well. Su Weifeng comforted. Husband, will you really come back? Chu Zio2's eyes were already tearful. Of course I will come back. How can I bear to leave Zio2 here alone? Su Weifeng touched Chu Zio2's head and smiled. What's the matter? Chu Zio2 asked in confusion. Something happened in my company. I met a strong opponent. I went back to check the situation. Su Weifeng thought about it and said simply. As a girlfriend, it is also right to give her a reason, and it is not a secret. My husband has a company. He is so powerful. That's right. How can my husband not have a company when he is so rich? Chu Zio2 said in surprise. Zio2, be good. Watch the bar with Mo Fei. If there is anything, find Xiang Yi and Ajax. Wait for me to come back. Su Weifeng gave another instruction and then put down the snack. Tomorrow is an early morning flight. At night, Chu Zio2 hugged Su Weifeng reluctantly and finally fell asleep because she was too sleepy. The next morning, before it was bright, Su Weifeng gently took Chu Zio2's hand away, got up from the bed, washed up briefly, took the prepared gift and quietly went out to take a taxi to the airport, fearing that he would wake up Zio2. Zio2 frowned at this time, wondering what she was dreaming about. While waiting for the flight, Su Weifeng called Mo Fei and Xiang Yi respectively and gave them instructions. Mo Fei simply agreed, but Su Weifeng was very relieved. He knew that Mo Fei was very reliable, and he also asked Mo Fei to stay at the Oriental Hotel during his absence, also to accompany Zio2. Xiang Yi was very enthusiastic on the phone and promised to send people to protect his girlfriend in the bar every day. Su Weifeng also expressed his gratitude to Xiang Yi. As for Ajax, Su Weifeng also called, but what was more depressing was that Ajax's phone was always turned off and no one answered. Su Weifeng couldn't help shaking his head and sighing that it was unreliable. It was turned off at this time. Could it be that he hadn't gotten up yet? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 924, Going Home for One Night. Su Weifeng suddenly felt someone hugging him, and he was startled. His vigilance was too low. He cursed in his heart, broke free and prepared to fight. Brother Su, why are you here too? Ajax, a big bald man in a white robe, was looking at Su Weifeng with a happy face. Looking at the big bald man's excited expression, thinking that he was hugged by him just now, he couldn't help but get goosebumps all over his body. This guy's not really problematic, right? Just thinking about it makes me feel sick. I have something to do in China. Su Weifeng said. I'm also going to China to do something. We are really destined to be together. Ha 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 ha. The big bald Ajax said with a smile. Brother, I'm going to Yanjing. Where are you going? Ajax asked. I'm going back to Yangcheng. Su Weifeng said. Yangcheng? I have never been there. If I can get it done quickly, I will go to Yangcheng to find you. Ajax thought for a while and said. No problem. Yangcheng is my territory. I have to do my best to be a good host when I come here. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Ajax did help him a lot in Galan, and he was also a friend worth making. He must entertain him when he went to Yangcheng. After arriving in Huaxia, Su Weifeng and Ajax also parted ways and went to their respective destinations. When Su Weifeng arrived in Yangcheng, it was already midnight. He did not notify anyone when he came back this time, just like when he left. He took a taxi back to the villa and opened the door gently. A low voice came. Who? Liu Jia had just finished using the bathroom at night and was about to return to the room when he heard a slight sound from the door. A dark shadow came in quietly. Liu Jia was also startled and thought it was a bad guy. Liu Jia, it's me, Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng said softly, afraid of waking everyone up. Brother Su. Liu Jia finally saw who this person was in the moonlight. It was the brother Su she had been thinking about day and night. She excitedly went forward and hugged Su Weifeng tightly, as if she was afraid that he would run away again. Okay, I'll be fine when I come back. Su Weifeng knew that the girls at home had not been doing well recently and had made everyone feel wronged. Su Weifeng gently patted Liu Jia's back and whispered a few words of comfort. Liu Jia then realized that now all the girls were at home and she also wore a nightgown when she slept. Now it was a bit too cool to hug brother Su. She quickly let go of Su Weifeng. Her face was hot and she didn't dare to look at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng also noticed Liu Jia's shy look and laughed in his heart. After leaving the Song family, this girl gradually adapted to the new life and no longer lived to please men. Now this is what an ordinary girl should be like. Seeing them gradually come out, Su Weifeng was also very happy. Is your sister Zhuangxuan at home? Su Weifeng pointed to the room upstairs and said softly. He was mainly afraid of making a mistake. If it was Qiao Yushan at home, it would be bad if he went back and mistook her for Lin Zhuangxuan. Yes, sister Zhuangxuan is here. Liu Jia replied hurriedly. Okay, you should go to bed quickly too. Su Weifeng touched Liu Jia's head and went upstairs. Liu Jia returned to her room, her heart still beating wildly. Brother Su's chest was so warm just now, and she was so happy that she couldn't sleep for a while. Su Weifeng returned to his room quietly, opened the door, and saw a girl with a good figure lying on the bed, still whispering softly. Don't leave, I miss you. Su Weifeng got close to her and listened carefully to distinguish a few words. The girl was thinking about him in her dreams. Su Weifeng felt very uncomfortable. He really owed her too much. He let a girl who loved him deeply bear his own pressure, but he didn't know where he was. Su Weifeng gently went to bed and hugged Lin Zhuangxuan, his heart full of heartache and love. I'm back, Zhuangxuan. Su Weifeng said softly, as if he was talking to himself. The girl in his arms suddenly shuddered, as if she woke up from a dream. She really thought she was dreaming. She had dreamed that brother Su was back more than once, but this time it was unusually real. She suddenly opened her eyes, feeling the warm embrace and familiar taste. She knew that brother Su was really back. He was really back. Lin Zhuangxuan hugged Su Weifeng tightly and buried her head in his chest. Tears could no longer stop falling. At this moment, she was no longer the smart and capable company boss, but just an ordinary girl. Only then did she dare to vent all the grievances and fears in her heart. She was too difficult. The recent events had exceeded her tolerance. She had long since stopped knowing what to do. She just gritted her teeth and insisted in front of others, not showing her weak side. Looking at Lin Zhuangxuan's aggrieved look, Su Weifeng couldn't help but feel sad and distressed. He swore that he would never let these people go. No matter who they were or what their background was, no one could bully my Su Weifeng's woman. Zhuangxuan, don't be afraid, I'm back. Everything is over with me. Su Weifeng gently patted Lin Zhuangxuan's back and comforted her softly. Brother Su, is your mission over? Is it okay to come back now? Lin Zhuangxuan raised her tear-stained face and said with some worry. She knew that she had just called Su Weifeng and he had said that the mission would take a long time. She must have come back so soon because of family matters. Was it against the rules? Seeing Lin Zhuangxuan's sensible appearance, Su Weifeng felt even more distressed. Such a good girl, but she had to bear so many things that she shouldn't have to bear. It's okay. I asked for leave from my boss and came back to see you first. I miss you too. Su Weifeng smiled and looked at Lin Zhuangxuan. That's great. We all miss you and we can dream of you coming back. Lin Zhuangxuan burst into tears and laughed. Su Weifeng smiled and said in his heart, I know everything, and gently kissed Lin Zhuangxuan's soft lips, and Lin Zhuangxuan also responded with love. Suddenly, Su Weifeng had that symptom again, and his mind began to go blank. Su Weifeng certainly knew what it was, but this time he was not going to recover from his injuries. He wanted to give this girl a short sweet time and did not want to be disturbed by anything, including his own recovery. Su Weifeng suppressed that feeling with his true energy and kissed Lin Zhuangxuan passionately. The two reluctantly separated their lips after a long time, as if they were a couple who had just fallen in love. Brother Su, you have been away for so long. Why didn't you enter this state when we kissed? Do you not like me anymore? Lin Zhuangxuan whispered. How could I not like Zhuangxuan? I have already entered that state, but, Su Weifeng said with a smile. He didn't want to tell Lin Zhuangxuan, but he was afraid that Lin Zhuangxuan would think too much, and that she would really think that he didn't like her anymore and be sad. Chapter 925 Investigation. Brother Su, how could you give up recovering from your injuries? Lin Zhuangxuan immediately understood what was going on, and couldn't help but frowned. Just now, I just couldn't help it. Zhuangxuan, don't be angry. Su Weifeng said deliberately with a smile. HMPH, don't do it next time. Lin Zhuangxuan pretended to be angry. She knew that Su Weifeng didn't want to ruin the atmosphere. She could clearly feel Su Weifeng's love for her. Her heart had melted long ago, so how could she be angry? Okay, I won't do it next time. Su Weifeng replied hurriedly. That's better. Lin Zhuangxuan smiled and looked like a little girl. She was very cute, which made Su Weifeng kiss her hard again. The two of them made a big fuss for a while, and gradually quieted down. Zhuangxuan, what's the name of that company? Where is it? It's not very clear on the phone. Su Weifeng said softly. He couldn't wait to know who was bullying his girlfriend. That company is called Ideal Film and Television, Lin Zhuangxuan said angrily, full of anger. Su Weifeng frowned when he heard the name. His and Lin Zhuangxuan's company is called Dream Film and Television, and this company is called Ideal Film and Television. Isn't this intentional? No one would believe it if it was a coincidence. This company is right across from our company. When Su Weifeng said this, he could feel that Lin Zhuangxuan was about to explode. Hearing this, Su Weifeng was also going to explode. This was bullying at his doorstep. How could this be tolerated? But he was also very confused. Isn't the opposite door Xulingling's art studio? In fact, it is not open to the public at all. It is just a place for a group of family children to play. Could it be that Xulingling gave the place to them? Thinking of this, Su Weifeng's eyebrows couldn't help but frowned. Isn't Xulingling's studio right across from our company? Su Weifeng said with a frown. You don't go to the company often, so you don't know. Xulingling's studio has been closed for a long time. Didn't she open a studio just to pursue you? Why would she open a studio now that she has succeeded? She has already given up the lease. Ideal Film and Television rented this location from the property management company, and it has nothing to do with Xulingling. Lin Zhuangxuan explained, and she also guessed Su Weifeng's thoughts. Su Weifeng nodded thoughtfully. It seemed that this company was targeting him, and there was no doubt about it. Do you know who the boss of this company is? Su Weifeng thought for a while and said. This was also what he was most confused about. Who was going to deal with him? The boss is a foreigner and never shows up. The legal person who registered the company also used someone else's name. Pei once went to the opposite side to find their boss, and a dispute occurred. He was beaten and went to the hospital. Fortunately, nothing serious happened. Lin Zhuangxuan sighed and said. This is also the most depressing thing at the moment. I don't even know the identity of my opponent. This loss is a bit too resentful. Okay, I'll go to that company tomorrow to see who dares to bully us. Su Weifeng said with a cold face, and he was really angry. You have to be careful, they are not just a company. Lin Zhuangxuan said some things about the family in detail. Don't worry, I'm just taking a look. There won't be a direct conflict. Su Weifeng comforted. The next morning, when Su Weifeng appeared in the living room, the girls were very surprised. Although they had learned from Liu Jia that brother Su was back, several girls surrounded Su Weifeng and chatted non-stop. Even Sun Yumeng surrounded Su Weifeng and looked at him infatuatedly. Although she was not as active as Zhao Xiaoshu, she was very happy to be able to look at brother Su so quietly. Brother Su, where have you been for so long? I thought you didn't want us anymore. Zhao Xiaoshu said dissatisfiedly. Yes, brother Su, did you encounter anything? Sun Yumeng also said. Liu King and Liu Jia watched Su Weifeng snickering on the side. They didn't want to compete with the hostesses for Brother Su at this time, although they all liked Brother Su. After some comforting, the girls were finally no longer so excited. After breakfast, Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan drove to the company. Since there was nothing going on in the company now and there was a high possibility of conflict today, Su Weifeng didn't let Sun Yumeng and Zhao Zhaoshu go to the company. He asked them to go buy some vegetables with Liu King and Liu Jia. They would have something good to eat in the evening. The girls were very happy and went to the vegetable market together. When they arrived at the company, all the employees were there, but they were all doing nothing. The whole company looked dead. "Hello, Mr. Su." The girl at the front desk saw Su Weifeng and her eyes lit up, and she hurriedly greeted him. "Hello, Mr. Su." "Hello, Mr. Su." When the company's employees heard that Mr. Su was back, they came out to greet Su Weifeng, and the atmosphere of the whole company suddenly became warm. They all knew that their boss was a big shot. With the boss back, the company might be saved. "Boss Su, you're back. It's my fault for not taking good care of the company." Pei Yi, with gauze wrapped around his head, said to Su Weifeng with a guilty look on his face. "It's not your fault. Our opponents are too strong. Don't worry, I will avenge you." Su Weifeng said with a smile. "Boss, call me when you want to do it." Seeing Pei Yi's posture of being a death squad, Su Weifeng laughed in his heart. This Pei Yi is really a mixed up society. He is brave enough and responsible, but he thinks too simply of the enemy and his own strength is also a little weak. Now it is known that the level of warriors is the evaluation standard of personal combat power. Pei Yi, who fights with a fierce force, is really too weak. Su Weifeng is thinking that when there is a suitable opportunity, he should guide Pei Yi and let him work hard on the warrior aspect so that he can better protect his company and these girls. "You guys are busy. I'll go to the opposite side to take a look," Su Weifeng said and walked out. The employees all rushed to go together, but were stopped by Su Weifeng. This was not a group fight, and all the staff were mobilized, so the girls could only scratch people. In the end, Su Weifeng only took Lin Zhuangxuan and Pei Yi to the Ideal Film and Television opposite. As soon as the three entered the Ideal Film and Television, the front desk recognized Lin Zhuangxuan and Pei Yi, and her face immediately sank. She knew that they were the enemies of her company, and the enemies of the company were her enemies. "Are you guys okay?" the girl at the front desk asked coldly. "I'm looking for your boss," Su Weifeng said calmly. "Our boss is not here, you can go," the girl at the front desk said impatiently. "Tell your boss that Su Weifeng is here," Su Weifeng said with a sneer. He believed that the boss of the Ideal Film and Television would meet him. All this was for him. There was no reason not to meet the real owner. "I said, the boss is not here. The boss is not here." The girl at the front desk was completely impatient. "Are you Su Weifeng?" a mocking voice sounded. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.